Good morning. The May 6, 2026 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. The board continues to meet in a hybrid format. For those here in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. For those attending virtually, if you desire an opportunity to speak, we ask that you please keep yourself on mute until the chair recognizes you. When you're called upon, please announce your name and organization and speak loudly and clearly as you present. I do want to acknowledge and welcome some of our judges who have joined us this morning. I would love it if you all could take a quick 2 minutes to introduce yourselves and why you are here. If you could just come up to the mic, and again, just because we have a long agenda today, if you could keep it pithy.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Push a little.
Yeah, it's push it.
Good morning, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to address the appropriateness of approving the agreement that's on the agenda. Before I make my statements on behalf of the court, and that is the Circuit Court for Baltimore City, I want to introduce three former administrative judges for the court. That is Judge Heller, Judge Holland, and Judge Pearson. They all represent over 20 years of efforts in getting us to this point. We are grateful for their presence.
And Judge, if you could introduce yourself for the record as well.
Yes, sorry. My name is Audrey Carey, and I am the current administrative judge for the Circuit Court in Baltimore City. Thank you, President Cohen. The Circuit Court for Baltimore City, as you know, is the busiest circuit court in Maryland. The court bench consists of 35 judges, 14 magistrates, and an average of 2 to 5 senior judges that serve on a weekly basis. Additionally, the court houses large employees, such as the clerk's office and the sheriff's office. There are 3 courthouse facilities, but the 2 at issue here are the Clarence Mitchell Courthouse, which was built in 1900, and the Elijah E. Cummings Courthouse, built in 1932. Every day, hundreds of jurors, litigants, attorneys, witnesses, and family members and other persons having business with the court visit these courthouses. I will assure you that I will be the only one speaking, but the present courthouse facilities in the Mitchell and Cummings Courthouse have deteriorated over the decades and centuries to the point that the health and security of the staff, parties, public, and the judiciary are at risk. The most pressing risk, of course, is always security. Due to the long, outdated configurations, prisoners are offloaded on the street rather than in a secure garage, bringing them into immediate contact with the general public during our hallways. The aging infrastructure also raises serious occupant health concerns. As I know many of you, including Major Scott, are aware of the consistent and everyday issues that we have with respect to the maintenance of this building. Baltimore City's criminal justice challenges have been well publicized and well documented. Everyone agrees that real change is needed. Baltimore City's criminal justice system cannot have meaningful change unless there's a change in the environment where justice is called to take place. So we thank you for the opportunity to consider this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judge. All right. At this time, I would ask our clerk for any corrections, additions, and noted abstentions for today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, everyone. We have the following corrections to read into the record this morning. SB 261183 for the Department of Human Resources. We are adjusting salary grades for the following classifications. Grade 84F, we're deleting $196,505.22 and correcting that number to $201,935.40. Deleting grade 85F, $213,592.63 and correcting that number to $219,495, and deleting 80F, $187,961.52 and correcting that number to $193,155.60. We're also correcting 2 travel requests, and they both have the same corrected background, so I'm just going to read that once to spare you all listening to me read it twice. First up, SB 2611288. This is for Fire and Police Retirement Systems. This is an employee travel request for Giridhar Banala for $1,885.88. And we are deleting the existing background on the agenda and replacing it with the language as follows. The purpose of the PRISM organization is to provide opportunities for IT management of public retirement funds to collaborate and share their experiences with new technologies affecting the retirement and IT industries. The Public Retirement Information Systems Management PRISM organization was formed in 1988 to provide a forum for information technology managers of public pension funds where they could share information as well as their experience as they strive to provide a state-of-the-art technology and systems support to the retirement funds they serve. PRISM has been very successful in accomplishing its goals over the years. The organization preserves an atmosphere where members know each other by name and remember each other's projects from year to year. Member fund representatives communicate throughout the year to share information and to help and support each other. This intimate level of networking fosters site visits to other member funds that have a system or capability that your fund may be considering. This year it is being held in San Diego, California from May 17th to May 20th at the Sheraton San Diego Resort and Marina. That same background is also being inserted for SB 2611289. We have no walk-ons to note this morning, and we have the following items being deferred. SB 2611174 for the Bureau of Procurement. This is an award for RFQ 000777 background check services. This is deferred until June 3rd, 2026, at the request of the Comptroller. And SB 2611275 for the Department of Transportation, extra work order number 3, Gray & Son Incorporated. This item is deferred until June 3rd, 2026, at the request of the agency. The following items are being withdrawn this morning. SB 2611078 for procurement, select source, RFQ 053251, automated traffic violation enforcement system. This was withdrawn at the request of procurement. SB 2611098 for procurement, select source, RFQ 053219, speed and red light enforcement system. This item was withdrawn at the request of procurement. We have the following protests, statements of opposition, and/or statements of support to note for today's, as received, and most are applicable to today's agenda. For SB 2611014, Department of Law, resolution, removal of owner-occupied properties valued under $250,000 from the 2026 tax sale. A statement of support has been received from Neka Namdi. A statement of support with comments has been received from Claudia Wilson Randall on behalf of the Community Development Network of Maryland. A statement of support has been received from Megan Good on behalf of Maryland Volunteer Lawyers Service. A statement of support with comments has been received from Allison Harris on behalf of the Pro Bono Resource Center of Maryland. A statement of support has been received from the Shauna Roth Gormley on behalf of the Community Law Center. For SB 2611174 for the Bureau of Procurement and Award, RFQ 000777 background check services. Again, this item is deferred until 6/3/26, but a protest has been received from the Bowden Group and Associates, and we are noting that here today. Again, the item has been deferred until June 3rd, 2026. SB 2611282 for the Department of Real Estate Lease Agreement, Urban Pirates, LLC. A statement of opposition has been received from Casey Jones, representing Sedona House. A statement of support has been received from Nicholas Johnson, representing Sukasa. SB 2610995 for the Bureau of Procurement Award, RFQ 000751, HVAC Maintenance, Repair, and Installation. A statement of opposition was received and announced at a previous meeting from BMC. That protest has been withdrawn. SB 2611026, Bureau of Procurement Award, RFQ 000744, Unarmed Security Services for $30 million. A statement of opposition has been received from Cynthia Mohammed on behalf of ASEEM Security Agency Incorporated. SB 2611395, the Office of the Labor Commissioner, fiscal year 26 through 28 Memorandum of Understanding for the City Union of Baltimore, Units 1 and 2. A statement of support has been received from Antoinette Ryan Johnson, President of CUB. SB 25-14775, Department of Transportation Grant Agreement with the Maryland Department of Transportation. A statement of opposition has been received from Doug Armstrong, Area 7, RPP Liaison for Remington, and a statement of opposition has been received from Jessica Hudson. SB 261121, Department of Transportation, Transfer of Funds, Remington Avenue Separated Bicycle Lanes. A letter of opposition has been received from Doug Armstrong, Area 7 RPP Liaison, Remington, and a statement of opposition has been received from Jessica Hudson. On the non-routine agenda today, we have the following: SB 2611282, Real Estate Lease Agreement, Urban Pirates LLC; SB 2611014, Law Department Resolution, Removal of Owner-Occupied Properties valued under $250,000 from 2026 tax sale; SB 2514775, Department of Transportation Grant Agreement with the Maryland Department of Transportation; SB 2611121, Department of Transportation Transfer of Funds, Remington Avenue Separated Bicycle Lanes; SB 2611436, Bureau of Budget Management, Annual Property Tax Ordinance Fiscal Year 2027, SB 2611420, Bureau of Budget Management, Fiscal Year 27, Ordinance of Estimates, SB 2611247, Department of Planning, FY 27 Capital Budget and Capital Improvement Program for fiscal years 27 through 32, SB 2611077, Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success Grant Agreement, Associated Catholic Charities; SB 2610745, Mayoralty Agreement with Sandtech Incorporated; SB 2611026, Bureau of Procurement Award, RFQ 000744, Unarmed Security Services; and SB 2611338, Bureau of Procurement Award, Select Source Body-Worn Cameras, Taser Record Management System. We have the following abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Mayor Brandon M. Scott has no abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable President Zeke Cohen is abstaining on the following items: SB 2611420, BBMR Fiscal 27 Ordinance of Estimates; SB 2611436, BBMR Annual Property Tax Ordinance Fiscal Year 27; SB 2611247, Planning Department Fiscal 27 Capital Budget and Capital Improvement Program for fiscal years 27 through 32; and SB 2611338, Procurement Award, Select Source Body-Worn Cameras, Taser Record Management System. The Honorable Bill Henry is abstaining on all travel requests and reimbursements. Deputy City Solicitor Stephen Salisbury has no abstentions to note this morning, and the Director of Public Works, Matthew Garbark, has no abstentions to note this morning. We also have the following no votes to read into the record for the routine agenda. The Honorable President Zeke Cohen is voting no on the following items: SB 2611420, Department of Transportation, Transfer of Funds, TR 26001, Reconstruction of Footways Citywide; SB 2611257, Department of Transportation, Transfer of Funds, TR 26004, Reconstruction of Alleys Citywide; SB 2611254, Department of Transportation, Transfer of Funds, TR 26008, Reconstruction of Alleys Citywide; and SB 2611171, Department of Transportation, Task Assignments Number 7, ADA Support Services, Rummel, Klepper, and Call, LLP. And, Mr. President, that concludes our opening statement for this morning. Thank you.
At this time, thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I ask for a motion to approve and adopt the opening statement as read by the clerk.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The opening statement has been adopted. I now direct members' attention to the memorandum from the Council President's Office dated May 6, 2026, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items, together with any corrections, additions, abstentions, and no votes that have been noted by the clerk. I will entertain a motion to approve all the items contained on the routine agenda.
Mr. President, I'm sorry to interrupt. We have a deferral that I also read into the non-routine, SB 2611174, for the Bureau of Procurement and Award for Background Check Services. That item is actually deferred. Apologies, I read it in both places, so that'll be deleted from the non-routine.
Understood.
It was item 2.
Item 2. All right. Let's go back and reapprove the opening
Sorry about
statement. I would entertain a motion to reapprove the opening statement as read by the clerk.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The opening statement has been adopted. I now direct board members' attention to the memorandum from the Council President's Office dated May 6, 2026, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any corrections, additions, abstentions, and no votes that have been noted by the clerk. I will entertain a motion to approve all the items contained on the routine agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving the items on the routine agenda say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The routine agenda items have been adopted. Before we shift to the non-routine agenda, I would like to address one of the items on the routine agenda we just approved. The Office of the Labor Commissioner and the City Union of Baltimore, aka CUB, have reached an agreement on an MOU that covers fiscal years 2026 through 2028. CUB President Antoinette Ryan Johnson has requested to address that agreement here today. President Ryan Johnson, if there. The floor is yours. Before I do that, I also want to briefly recognize my colleague, Councilmember Odette Ramos, who is here as well. Councilman Jermaine Jones as well.
Hiding with the people.
Indeed. All right. Ms. Ryan, the floor is yours.
Madam Labor Commissioner. Good morning, Honorable President Cohen, Honorable Mayor Brandon Scott, Honorable Comptroller Bill Henry, and distinguished members of the Board of Estimates. Thank you for the opportunity to stand before you today on behalf of the hardworking men and women of the City Union of Baltimore. Today is not just about approving a contract. Today is about recognition, fairness, and progress. Behind every service this city provides, there are dedicated public servants making it happen every single day. There are 911 dispatchers who remain calm while guiding residents through emergencies and life-threatening situations. There are public works employees maintaining our streets, sanitation systems, and infrastructure in every season and under every condition. There are Department of Transportation employees repairing roadways, maintaining traffic systems, responding to snow emergencies, and ensuring that Baltimore residents can move safely throughout this city each and every day. There are crossing guards who stand at intersections during rain, snow, heat, and heavy traffic to protect our children and safely guide them to and from school. They are often the first smiling face our children see in the morning and the last layer of safety before they return home. There are housing inspectors and code enforcement professionals working to keep our communities safe and stable. There are clerical, administrative, and support staff who ensure the daily operations of city government continues to operate efficiently and effectively. And there are countless other city employees who serve Baltimore quietly, consistently, and professionally, often without recognition, but never without impact. For many years, a number of these employees have carried out critical responsibilities while their compensation lagged behind similar positions in comparable jurisdictions. This agreement changes that. This historic contract is the result of a comprehensive and data-driven study of job classifications that carefully evaluated our members' duties and compared them to like jurisdictions across the country. The findings were clear. Many of our members have been significantly undercompensated for the level of work, responsibility, and expertise they provide to this city every day. As a result of this agreement, many union members will receive significant and well-deserved increases that better align their compensation with the true value of their work. These raises are not giveaways, they are earned. They represent long overdue recognition for employees who have continued to show up for Baltimore through staffing shortages, growing workloads, emergencies, and increasing demands on public service. But this contract is about more than wages. It is about retention, keeping experienced employees in positions that are essential to city operations. It is about recruitment, ensuring Baltimore can attract qualified professionals to public service. It is also about stability, morale, and maintaining the institutional knowledge that keeps this city functioning. And ultimately, it is about providing the residents of Baltimore with the quality services they deserve. When we invest in our workforce, we invest directly in the future of our city. This agreement also demonstrates what can happen when labor and management engage in meaningful collaboration. While negotiations are never simple, this process was grounded in professionalism, data, and a shared understanding that Baltimore's workforce must be treated fairly and competitively. Today, this board has had the opportunity to affirm that principle. On behalf of the City Union of Baltimore and its members, I thank you for your approval of this agreement. Let's today send a clear message to the workers who keep this city running, that their service matters, their sacrifices are seen, and their value is recognized. Because when we support the people who serve Baltimore, we strengthen Baltimore itself. Thank you for your time and your approval of this historic memorandum of understanding between the City of Union of Baltimore and the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore.
Thank you, Ms. Antoinette. Madam Commissioner, would you like to say a few words as well?
Yes, good morning. Deborah Moore Carter, Labor Commissioner. Good morning, honorable members of the board.
Morning.
First of all, I'd like to thank Mayor Scott and the administration for making the investment in city employees, both Cub and AFSCME. At long last, our employees will have a scale that makes sense. They will have a 25-step scale, which will be implemented over 3 years. The first 10 steps will be implemented in the year one of the contract. The next 5 steps will be implemented in year 2, and then the last 10 steps will be implemented in the 3rd year. So city employees will have movement, which is a good thing. So I just wanted to thank you. And this was the contract that everyone was waiting for, because Cub represents the most employees in the city, both represented and unrepresented. So they are looking forward to the future as far as wages are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for your hard work on this. Supporting our city workers is a critical part of our mission here in Baltimore. I was talking to the mayor this morning as I was at my kid's school, and having school police there present was really reassuring. There's been a lot of anxiety. There had been some ICE activity in the neighborhood, and having the officers there to greet the kids made a huge difference just in the general morale and mood. And I think a lot of times we forget or we overlook the critical contribution that our city workers give to our city. It's very easy to not see, whether it's in AFSCME, the sanitation worker, whether it's in Cub, the school police officer, but we know that they are what keeps Baltimore moving. And so grateful to President Ryan, all the collaboration with the council as well as the administration. Madam Labor Commissioner, same story. Appreciate, I know a ton of hard work on both sides went into this. With that, I will yield to the mayor for brief remarks as well.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam President. We got it done, I think. But in all honesty, I really want to thank Madam President, Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller. Many years ago, before I was the mayor of the city of Baltimore, it was President Ryan Johnson that came to me and said, we need to have a salary study and to implement the salary study. And I'm so happy that we've been able to get this done and that we've been able to do something that was long overdue. Anytime something has been needed longer than the comptroller and I have been here, we know it's been a long time. I just want to say congratulations, but thank you. And just know to the members of CUB, they already know this, but I appreciate them. We appreciate them dearly, and know that we're going to continue to support them every single day because they deserve this raise. They deserve those steps because they do work that many people will not do, and that we appreciate them, and I appreciate you. And appreciate you, Madam Labor Commissioner, Madam Administrator, all the folks on the negotiation team. Yes, we know how negotiations are, but now that it's over, everyone can go back to being friends again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the non-routine agenda is from the Department of Real Estate under SB 26-11282. This is a request to approve a wharfage agreement with Urban Pirates LLC. On behalf of Real Estate, we have Director Eric Evans. Director Evans,
Moving towards the microphone.
the floor is yours.
Good. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Comptroller, honorable members of the board. Eric Evans of Department of Real Estate. I am here this morning to respectfully request the approval of a wharfage agreement between the Mayor and City Council and Urban Pirates LLC. This agreement represents $45,179 of revenue to the city over 3 years. This is an initial term of 3 years with the option for 2 3-year renewals. Initial term begins May 10th and ends May 10th of this year and ends October 31st, 2028. This is on the west side of the Ann Street Pier, which is it's just to the west of the Pendry Hotel. This agreement includes many measures for noise abatement and rules for lining up patrons and the organization of how this business is to operate on public property. With that, I will ask if there are any questions.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing and hearing none, the board has received one statement of opposition and one statement of support to this item from the public. First, I will call on Casey Jones, who is representing Sedona House, to provide their statement of opposition. Ms. Jones, if you, Mr. Jones, if you are present, you may come to the floor and provide your remarks. And if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Casey Jones, and I'm the co-owner of the Sedona House. My statement of opposition is not to oppose the Urban Pirates' right to operate in Fells Point. I want to be very clear about that. They currently dock about 20 feet from 911 South Ann Street, which is the business that I currently lease. They have, in the past, actually rented that business and leased from my my landlord. And in that time, they were able to manage their crowd effectively, check in their crowd within the confines of that operation, and then move out onto the boat for their tours and cruises. I think they have an awesome business, and I'm here to find solutions. I've presented solutions to both the real estate team as well as the ownership of the Urban Pirates to relocate this business, at least temporarily for this season, to the Broadway Pier Park, where they've been operating for the past month temporarily. They've said that they see about 40,000 people per year on a wharf in Ann Street that has no safety railings, no guardrails, and it has thousands of people a day that already pass through that area, right? So this is just, in my opinion, a very unnecessary safety risk for not only the people who live and work in Fells Point, but also the folks that patronize the boat. Those folks, most of them parents of toddlers, naturally will bring their kids closer to my business so that their children aren't running near the water's edge, right? The Broadway Pier presents an opportunity for increased safety for these people and space for them to enjoy our city with bulkheads completely surrounding it. It also gives increased accessibility. Ann Street's a one-lane road that, as the real estate director noted, they require a tent, stanchions, signage, as well as gangways to operate their business, meaning that a wharfage agreement does not fully encompass the scope or scale of their operations. When these things are not permitted, to your point about $45,000 over 3 years, my thought is that by moving them to the Broadway Pier, which is a public park, the city can adequately and accurately formalize a lease agreement to recoup the revenues that they actually use and require for their operations. That's why it would benefit the city. Why it would benefit the Pirates is because their operations look exactly the same on the Broadway Pier as they do on the Ann Street Wharf. The critical difference is many more people can see their business from increased visibility. They've noted that there are one-time costs associated with a transition like this. My opinion is that these could potentially be outweighed by the increase in visibility of their business, more sales opportunities, more ticketing opportunities for those individuals who are patronizing Fells Point. If you've ever been to the market on a Saturday morning, you know how many thousands of people can see the Broadway Pier. Additionally, there aren't as many noise restrictions. There are actually no noise restrictions over there. Bar Casino plays loud music all the time for their guests, so the atmosphere is actually better for their business and more conducive to their operations. Why it would benefit my business is because I could experience a more consistent operation. As their business is busy in prime time hours, so is mine. And all I'm after is a lease and an operation that operates within the confines of that. I'm not asking them to turn down their party. I think putting noise restrictions or covenants into a lease is just unenforceable, frankly, in practice. By the time a 311 call is made and an agent gets out, there's no one left on the pier for the tour. So why don't we put them in a place that they can be as loud as they want to at all times? That, I think, is a win-win for the city, the Pirates, as well as my business. And my last point here is that it's taken since the beginning of 2025 to renew this lease. This is not a new lease, although this is a new proposal. This wharfage agreement expired in April 2024. And I don't know about y'all, but if you have a landlord and you don't pay them, in the world of private business, my landlord's calling me about the rent if I don't pay. If I let my lease expire, it's my responsibility to make it known. So in summation, we've waited over a year to get to this point. My request is that we stay this decision for another 6 months to really assess what operations for their business could look like on the pier, what the city revenues could actually be, and what my business could find with a more consistent, calmer experience on the wharf. I really appreciate all you making the time and listening to us. I know you're dealing with a ton more things, and I'm just one person with one business, but I'm responsible for the community that patronizes our business just like theirs is to theirs. So I truly thank you, and I appreciate your consideration in this request.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any questions? I'm sorry, Mr. Casey. Any questions for the board for Mr. Casey?
My name's Casey Jones, yes.
It's very confusing.
No worries. It's a topic.
Hearing and seeing none, we thank you for your advocacy and engagement on this item. Next, we will hear from Nick Johnson, who is representing Sukasa, who will be providing a statement of support. Mr. Johnson, if you are present, which I see that you are, you may come to the front. The floor is yours.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you all for being here, hearing the, oh, sorry about that. I forget about that. My wife reminds me. But thank you all for being here and hearing this. This, in my opinion, I've been a part of this community. I don't just own a business. I've resided in the neighborhood since 1996. That address is actually the first address my family had in that neighborhood, so I'm well aware of the context and history of that property. This is about two businesses, one that is 2 years old and one that is 19 years old, essentially at a disagreement over how to use public space. I don't think that it's fair for a business to come into a community and dislodge a long-standing business that has a history of being a participant in the community, a member of the community, a responsible operator, somebody that is driving consistent and decent foot traffic to the community. I have a picture that I'm waiting for my niece to get married to show, to embarrass her, when she was 4 years old on that pirate ship. This is a part of the community and a part of the history of that community. I urge you to approve their lease as it stands. Let them stay where they've been operating responsibly for 19 years, and let the community continue to benefit from the presence of their business. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me first thank Mr. Jones for investing in Baltimore. We appreciate your commitment to our city. I'll also say that often when pirates and yogis collide, it gets very bloody. And in this case, everyone has been very calm in this Board of Estimates meeting, so I appreciate that. Also someone whose kids have spent time on the pirate ships. I think that it is an enormous driver of good energy in our city. We know that when we think about tourism, when we think about how folks experience Baltimore, a lot of the time it is with the Baltimore Pirates, and it is a beautiful thing. I also have pictures of my children, which I will embarrass them at their wedding as well. I, again, appreciate both businesses and their contribution to the city. However, I do concur largely with Mr. Johnson that in this case, we're really talking about a business that has been here for a very long time, making significant contribution to our community. I know that the councilman has done an outstanding job in navigating and negotiating between the competing interests here. I will be voting in support, but again, want to just appreciate how both the yoga studio and the Pirates are contributing to Baltimore at a time where we are seeing a much different energy around investment and tourism and being at an all-time low for violence. It makes a big difference to have partners that are engaged and willing to come to the table. So I just want to thank everyone who has participated in this item, and it is such a Baltimore thing that we are dealing with. So glad we're dealing with it here at your Board of Estimates. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Mayor?
I make a motion to approve, Mr. President.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. This item has been approved. The next item on the non-routine agenda is from the Law Department under SB 2611014. This is a request to approve a resolution related to removal of properties from tax sale. On behalf of the Law Department, we have Chief of Staff Matthew Bradford. Mr. Bradford, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Council President, Mr. Mayor, Comptroller, honorable members of the board. The Law Department requests approval of a resolution to remove owner-occupied homes valued at less than $250,000 from the 2026 tax sale. As mentioned in the board's agenda, this is in recognition of the financial challenges faced by many owner-occupants of residential properties valued at less than $250,000 who struggle to pay the taxes and other charges that become liens on their property. That's it.
That's it. Any questions from members of the board? Hearing and seeing none. The board has received 5 statements of support for this item. Before getting to those statements of support, I will call up and recognize our colleague from the 14th District, Councilmember Ramos, to share a few words with us. Councilwoman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, Honorable Board, Councilwoman Ramos from the 14th District. Just wanted to say thank you again for making this really, really important move to help our homeowners and also the work that's already been done with payment plans, finally, as well as with the older adult piece. So I think we're making great strides on helping our residents and looking forward to the next steps relative to, tax sale reform. You may hear from others today that there may be a need to raise the assessed value simply because assessments are going up, but incomes are not. And so I think that there's something that we need to take a look at, whether it's now or whether it's a future, but just to make sure that, again, assessments are going up, but incomes are not. And so we want to make sure that we're helping as many homeowners that we can. Right now, we're able to get others that are out of this box into the payment plans, which is helpful. So I think that, again, thank you very much. I really appreciate it and look forward to the next steps. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember. Next, we will hear from Nika Namdi Ms. Namdi, the floor is yours.
All right. I'm going to try to do this without my notes.
Yeah, we're laughing at your shirt, sorry.
Good morning, everyone. I am Nika Namdi. I'm the Executive Director of the SOS Fund, and we stand in support of SB 2611014. We would like to have the bill amended in a way that would raise the bar for assessed values to $325,000. We also would like heirs to be able to be included, as well as misclassified properties. That being said, I had the pleasure this weekend of attending the celebration of life for Miss Benita Anderson, who was the title plaintiff, or one of the title plaintiffs, in the tax sale case against the city. Ms. Anderson fought a severe illness, which is the reason she ended up in part in tax sale. And due to misapplied payments, she eventually lost her home. But despite that, she fought with bravery and courage, entering into that case. And it is not lost on me, as I was at her homegoing, hearing about the service that she did in community to her family, through her church, and through the Salvation Army. And it is funny to me that the way she served her community is the way the city ought to be serving its residents. And the city has not done that, particularly around tax sale in the past. And so as you all make this decision today, right, whether you decide to expand the assessed value, include heirs, or misclassified properties, I do hope that you understand that these decisions that this Board of Estimates make, that the mayor makes, and that the council make, have the, quite literally, the power of life and death. Quite literally. Ms. Anderson fought an illness. That illness, she fought tax sale. That illness returned, no doubt, because of the stress of losing her home, and she lost her life. And so when you all are making these decisions, please remember that this city exists to serve the people. It is the organizing arm of the people, not the organizing arm or the profit center for tax lien purchasers or for their attorneys. And so with that, again, I hope that you all will consider raising the assessed value to, the limit on assessed value to $325,000, allow for the inclusion of heirs and misclassified properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Namdi. Next, we'll hear from Claudia Wilson Randall, who is representing Community Development Network of Maryland. Ms. Wilson Randall, not seeing her. All right.
No, it's not online.
Next, we'll hear from Megan Good, who is representing the Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service. Ms. Good, if you could just come to the front and present.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Megan Good. I'm an attorney with the Maryland Volunteer Lawyers Service. I work to help low-income families preserve and pass on their family home. And over the past year, I've spent dozens of hours doing community-based outreach to homeowners at risk of tax sale. First, I do want to thank you for your ongoing commitment to protecting owner-occupied properties and our vulnerable residents. I also want to share that I prepared the data that our coalition shared with you in advance of today's meeting in support of our ask that you expand the assessed value of homes to $325,000, and that when defining owner-occupied properties to form the list, which I just want to note doesn't require an amendment to the resolution, it's just about how the list is formed, that when we do that, you support a broader definition where we're not just looking at the classification code, but really looking at all properties where the mailing address for the home is the same as the property address. I'm not going to read the data to you that we shared because I know that you all are capable of working through that, but I want to highlight an aspect that I find particularly heartbreaking, and that is that every person who's reflected in that data is a vulnerable homeowner that we haven't reached yet, as the city or as community organizations who are trying to reach homeowners. If they're still on that list, it means we haven't reached them to connect them to the resources that we've been trying to put together to protect our most vulnerable. And for many of the resources that we've been able to put in place this year, which we appreciate your work on, we've only had 1 to 2 weeks notice of a deadline to try to do outreach and get folks connected to a service. When we're thinking about homeowners who are wary of scams, we've been training them that if they're receiving something that's urgent, saying act now or you'll lose your home, that's a red flag for a scam. So the training and education that we've been doing makes it particularly hard to get people to move quickly when a new resource is put in place, but they have to sign up immediately to access that resource. We're also serving homeowners with disabilities or folks who are experiencing health crises, other types of crises, or homeowners who don't read English. And we can't reasonably expect them to be able to identify and sign up for a payment plan in a 2-week period of time. Using public data, we know that homeowners are misclassified, so they live in the home as the owner, but the occupancy code says it's not their principal residence. We know there's homeowners in that situation who are on the list and they shouldn't be, particularly one on St. Ambrose Avenue in Park Heights, Malvern Street in District 1, Northwood Drive in District 4. The list goes on. We shared that list with you for folks that we know about. When I was door knocking in Panway, there's a property that I have good reason to believe is misclassified and owned by an immigrant family. When I knock on that door, I see a kid's bike on the lawn, a dog barking inside, and a piece of personal mail on the ground under the mailbox that has the owner's name on it. I know that owner lives there, but they're reasonably not answering the door when a stranger's knocking on their door. Those of us doing this outreach, we can't protect all these homeowners, but you can. You have the power to do this by using a broader definition when we're identifying owner-occupied properties. We know that if a homeowner can't afford this $1,500 bill they're facing, they can't afford $1,500 rent if they lose this housing. We know that approximately 2/3 of the properties labeled as not a principal residence may actually be occupied by the owners. We know that the heirs registry hasn't yet been established. Payment plans were just launched this week, and that we're finding many homeowners are having challenges signing up for those plans. For example, if they're signed up for biannual payments, they're not able to sign up for that plan at this time. The modifications we're asking you to make to protect our neighbors are reasonable and will have a minimal impact on the city budget. We know these homeowners are going to continue to pay on these bills based on historic patterns, and the minimal impact it will have is significantly outweighed by the value of preventing the trauma, wealth extraction, and housing loss faced by our most vulnerable neighbors. I just want to end with one final note. I've been working with a client in Northwest Baltimore for weeks now. I've personally spent over 40 hours trying to help her fix the classification of her property, and we have not been able to do it because SDAT refuses to correct the code, even though they know she lives there. These aren't quick fixes. Even when we identify a homeowner with an issue, it's not as simple as making a phone call. This takes hours and hours of work to help these residents. And these simple expansions that we're asking for really will protect many vulnerable residents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Real quick, before you go, Comptroller Henry has a question.
Sure.
Yes, and I hope you noticed that the mayor and I were commiserating about the fact that SDAT does not make quick fixes when they've made a problem. I'm sorry, I should have asked this of Ms. Namdi, but for the viewers at home who don't have access to the data that you've shared with us, could you quickly summarize why it is important to move from 250 to 325?
Sure. So some of the data that we submitted in support of that request is highlighting the increases in assessed values for properties that have occurred over the last few years as the state has worked to reassess more properties. Honestly, Allison Harris submitted this data, so she may be better equipped to report some of this. But on April 14th, it was reported that 99.5% of residential properties in the city saw an assessment increase between fiscal year 2020 and 2025, and that residential assessments went up about 13.4%. So we know that properties who may have been withheld from tax sale 2 years ago are now on the list because they've inched over that $250,000 threshold. And just to remind people, folks who are on these lists, they no longer have a mortgage on the property, because if they have a mortgage, they're making these tax payments monthly, their mortgage company is handling it. So this is we're really talking about seniors and heirs who are being asked to make these tax payments in lump sums, are, experiencing confusion for their bills, and often are living on fixed incomes that make it really difficult to do that.
As someone who can now see the light at the end of the tunnel and can visualize what it's like to just worry about paying the tax bill because the mortgage is paid, I think it's also important that we talk about what the delta is in terms of the number of people who are at risk of tax sale, but who, if they could be taking advantage of the payment plans that now we have, would actually be able to make their tax payments. The number of people who would not go through the horror of looking in the paper and seeing that their house is being put up for tax sale, is that delta of going from 250 to 325 significant enough to offset what it would mean in terms of cash flow and collections for the city?
Well, I think so. We don't have the list post April 30th, but when we were looking at the list of properties impacted prior to April 30th, the amount of debt owed by homeowners in that threshold was pretty low. It was below 1 million, which, the legacy pilot program was 2 million was dedicated to that fund. And even just over a week or two period, when we did get an updated list, we saw that number shrinking. So in terms of actual revenue that the city might not see in the coming 6 months, I think it's reasonable to believe it's a really small amount, because these are folks who are trying to pay on their bill, and honestly just need more time to get connected to the payment plans. To your point about people who no longer have the mortgage payment, what we see when talking with clients is there's so much confusion. People don't understand why a bill for 2025, 2026 is overdue in December. They're accustomed to something being monthly. Nobody's expecting someone to pay their full energy bill in half of a year. So when we're talking to folks, a lot of times we can make headway with education and telling people, you don't have to pay it at once. You can actually make monthly payments, even though you're not told that. So we do expect that there is a light at the end of the tunnel for this. We just need more time for education, putting in not just payment plans for overdue bills, but letting people clearly make monthly payments for the bills that are coming and before they're overdue.
Well, I want to thank you. That I think you've provided fodder for some very interesting conversations behind the scenes as we move forward, he said while looking over at the Deputy Director of Finance.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we will hear from Allison Harris, who is representing the Pro Bono Resource Center of Maryland. Ms. Harris, if you could just come on up and present. Hello.
Good morning. I'm Allison Harris. I'm Director of the Home Preservation Project at the Pro Bono Resource Center of Maryland. I run tax sale prevention pro bono legal clinics for homeowners in Baltimore. Over the past 11 years, we've assisted over 1,000 homeowners facing tax sale. I'm here today to support the removal of owner-occupied properties from the 2026 tax sale and to urge you to increase the dollar value threshold of the homeowner properties, and also to remove properties that are potentially misclassified as non-owner occupied. I want to focus my remarks on the request to remove residents living in homes that are potentially misclassified as non-owner occupied. This would include the removal list of residential properties that are owned by individuals where the SSTAT mailing address is the same as the property address. We have provided our written submissions containing the data, which we discussed, that we believe are potentially misclassified. I know this is a weedy issue, and it's hard to understand what we're talking about if you don't work in the capacity that we do with homeowners. So I wanted to share some examples with you of ways in which the homeowners with whom I work have become misclassified. I recently helped a homeowner who has an active tax sale foreclosure litigation case against him in circuit court by an investor who purchased the lien at last year's auction. The homeowner has lived in the home for decades. He inherited it via a life estate deed from his father. He landed in tax sale last year because at some point his occupancy status changed from owner-occupied to non-owner occupied. But like nearly all homeowners in this situation, he had no idea that had happened or when or why. I reached out to SSTAT on his behalf to find out. SDAT got back to me and told me that in October of 2020, during the height of COVID, when the mail system was not working properly, SDAT received a piece of returned mail marked undeliverable from his home. Based on that, they changed his occupancy from owner-occupied to non-owner-occupied, solely based on that, and that is why he did not get pulled from tax sale last year, and that is why he has an active tax sale foreclosure case against him right now. Over the last few weeks, I've been helping a couple of families who are on the tax sale list and are misclassified because they inherited the property along with several siblings. They did complete the probate process and they are on the title. However, in each of these cases, one of the family members continues to live in the home, has lived there, is stayed in the home. These other siblings do not, but they are on the title. The houses were changed by SDAT to non-owner occupied after the death of the parents per SDAT's standard procedure. But the sibling remaining in the home cannot get the occupancy status changed back to owner occupied because the other siblings are on the title but do not live in the home. I have a client whose husband died and SDAT received a notice in the mail that he was deceased. They changed the home's occupancy to non-owner occupied without checking to see if the spouse, who was also on the title, was still alive and living in the home. I have a client who purchased a home that was a flip. Unbeknownst to him, had the occupancy status changed and not updated when he purchased the home and moved in. I have a client who has a recent deed with an affidavit filed with the deed stating the home is to be owner occupied. But that information was not properly transmitted from the city to SDAT when the deed was being processed. Now he's classified as non-owner occupied. This week, right now, I'm helping an elderly couple who downsized last year to a new condo properly have their residency affidavit filed with their deed just a year ago, but then the husband was hospitalized for several months immediately following the purchase of that condo, during which time SDAT has decided the home is non-owner occupied. Being misclassified as non-owner occupied is a very real and a very prevalent problem. I know that each of you care very deeply about protecting family homes and legacy residents in Baltimore, and this is one concrete step that you can take to minimize the harm of tax sale. For these reasons, I ask you to remove from tax sale residential properties where the property is owned by an individual and the owner's mailing address matches the property's address. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Shana Roth-Gormley, who is representing Community Law Center. Ms. Roth-Gormley, if please feel free to come up and present.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Shana Roth-Gormley. I'm an attorney at Community Law Center. We provide legal services to nonprofit organizations and neighborhood groups, and we're really coming at tax sale from the impact on those neighborhoods, those communities, but also on the potential for tax sale to create new vacants. When, as you've heard, families, heirs are losing their properties in tax sale. Sometimes, going through that tax sale process, there are title issues that come out. The purchaser doesn't always go all the way through the foreclosure or record a new deed. And so we are sometimes seeing new vacants coming from tax sale. So we want to thank you for bringing this resolution to remove homeowners. I think this is really important, and we're glad to see this come again. And we support, but we do, as all the other speakers said, we really urge you to increase that assessed value threshold to $325 to keep up with the assessment changes that we're seeing, and knowing that incomes are not increasing alongside those assessed values. And also removing the heirs properties and the misclassified properties. It's a huge issue. You've heard those examples that the advocates are working on, and that's, I think, probably just the tip of the iceberg of properties that are out there. And so I think really seeing this as that ounce of prevention, that will hopefully get ahead of some of these issues that are really impacting communities. So thank you so much. Really appreciate all your work on this.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for any of the folks that came up to testify? And he's back. Mr. Bradford, the floor is yours again.
I have nothing to say. I was waiting for the approval.
Oh, okay, yeah, I hope you're not coming back here to argue with any of the things they
No.
Okay,
no.
thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The item is approved.
Thank you.
The next two items are related. Before we go on to the next two items, Mr. Mayor,
No, just before everyone leaves, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we are committed to looking at all of this stuff and looking at SDAT and working with all our partners to make sure this is an issue, obviously, that we all take very seriously, and we've done a lot of work on. We want to continue to do that. Thank you.
thank you, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Namdi. The next two items are related in subject matter and have received substantially similar statements of opposition. In the spirit of efficiency, I will call them together for one discussion, and then the board will take separate votes for each. Those items are from the Department of Transportation and listed as follows. SB 2514775, DOT, grant agreement from the Maryland Department of Transportation, and SB 2611121, DOT, transfer of funds for Remington Ave, separated bike lane. On behalf of Transportation, we have Director Veronica Macbeth. Director Macbeth, the floor is yours.
Lovely to see you all again.
Good to see you too.
As you mentioned, both items are connected, so I'm just going to speak to this with a single presentation. I have my colleague here, Sean Burnett, to answer any substantive, detailed, or nuanced questions about the project, as he is the lead. So just to give you the summary of the requested action, this is just simply a cooperative contract agreement. We were awarded a grant from MDOT, and this was for the 30% design as it relates to Remington Avenue, which is a separated bike lane. The amount was for $160,000. This is about a half mile of the facility. So the project is a critical connective spur to the existing 28th Street cycle track, and it is a part of a parking protected multimodal lane that would go along San Martin Drive, the University Boulevard, and as well as Greenmount School, Hampton Elementary Middle, and Johns Hopkins. And our matching fund for this contribution is $40,000. Next slide. Again, as I mentioned, we were just trying to accept a reimbursement for this Maryland Bikeways grant. Like I said, was $160,000. So the period of performance ends on 12/31/27, which is why we are trying to get the funds now so that we can move forward with the process. The terms of agreement have been with the project that it's a reimbursable grant, and all the invoices for the reimbursement must be submitted by the grantee, which is us, before the grant termination date, and that would be by the 31st of 2027. Next slide. Here you'll see the timeline for the grant and then the construction date. So it goes from the planning phase all the way to construction, so essentially cradle to grave. And so this is being developed in tandem with the construction schedule for the DSAI project, and JHU has agreed to construct a segment, which is a significant segment, approximately 40+% of the project, as a part of their developers agreement. And as such, we must have 100% designs by the time that they move into the right-of-way construction for this phase, which is estimated to be spring 2028. Next slide. So here, this shows you the additional details and impacts as far as the project goes. And so this is the primary multimodal connector that is identified for Hamden and Charles Village and Remington and the 2017 Separated Bike Master Plan. And that is it. That's all I have right now. So just trying to get the allocation for the grant funds for the project.
Understood. Are there questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, we will now move on to statements of opposition for these items. First, I will call on Doug Armstrong, who is representing a portion of the Remington neighborhood. Mr. Armstrong, come on up.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Douglas Armstrong. I reside at 2828 North Howard Street. I'm also the Area 7 RPP representative, and I was for a number of years on the advisory board for the residential permit parking. This is a concern simply because I think residents and the community at large in that area don't know about this. There needs to be some communication. We've already lost parking as to DSAI or whatever it is from Hopkins. So the current conditions are already strained. Those things, I think, need to be taken into account with respect to this. A deferral would allow the opportunity for all the residents who are distinctly impacted and RPP overall to digest this and look at this and contribute to that. So I think it's a bit premature. I understand they want to get their hands on the money and they've got needs to spend it, but let's spend money well and let's also do something productive. Councilman Ramos is also working on amendments to the RPP in order to assist with the situation as it consists now with Johns Hopkins construction along Remington Avenue. And I just think that a deferral would be a good thing that would allow everybody to understand and know where things are going and be able to produce a better product. Don't really have much more than that to say, other than I have no personal knowledge of this. I have never received anything from DOT about this or about the plans, the timelines, the timeframes, or any of this stuff. So I think that there's also a disconnect. There needs to be a better means of communication here between people, between residents certainly, and folks in that area. We're all paying for RPP. It would be kind of nice to be able to actually utilize it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Armstrong. Next, we will note the statement of opposition this board received from Ms. Jessica Hudson. Ms. Hudson indicated that she does not wish to speak. Ms. Hudson, if you have changed your mind and are present, please come forward. Not seeing her. Are there any additional questions from the board regarding this matter? Comptroller Henry?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Yeah, I just wanted to sort of follow up on the question of, I understand that this is the design phase. Is there any community engagement during the design phase, or is that something that comes next?
That comes with the design phase. We don't even have the money to do the project yet. So that comes with the community engagement comes once we get the grant award. So this is just being allocated the funds. Once the funds are allocated, we then begin public and community engagement.
So the vote we're doing this morning is not the vote to do this. It's the vote to accept the money from the feds to help pay for designing the project, but then there would be community engagement. And after the community engagement portion, then if this project is moving forward, it comes back to us to actually like hire somebody to do it, right?
Well, we'll move forward with the project. Once the project has been approved, the community engagement process then goes forward as far as the design components. So if there are modifications to the design components, like we put it forward in a certain fashion, and if there are within reason requested modifications or some modicum of changes, we take those into consideration. But once the project it's been accepted in its current format, as far as being submitted to MDOT as a design for the city to move forward with.
So just to make sure, I just want to make sure, I'm practicing my reflective listening. Okay, so what we're agreeing today is we're going to do something.
Yes.
But the details of what the something are going to have community engagement and input. And if there is still dissatisfaction on the part of the community after input has been given and a final design is set, will this still come back to the board at some point where we would have the chance to say, we're unhappy about the fact that you did not make the community happier?
So the board may have an opportunity to have further comment if there is a need to assign funding for construction. This portion, what we're asking for today, is to simply receive the money to begin the ideation of the project, which includes all of the community engagement, iterative design, and et cetera.
Gotcha. Okay. That's what I was trying to make sure I was on the board. Okay. Thank you.
CA Leach.
Thank you so much. Sean, can you talk a little bit more about the process to even get to this point as far as this particular bike lane? So was there, like, how did we even determine that this is the area that we wanted to even consider designing a bike lane?
Great question. So this particular facility was outlined within the 2017 Separated Bike Master Plan, which was ratified by Council and the Planning Commission. This is seen, as of today, by the city recognized as the only true primary route, separated, safe, all-ages facility between those two neighborhoods.
Got it. Thank you so much. So just to reiterate and repeat that point, so the city has a bike master plan that was ratified by the Planning Commission, went to the City Council, and was approved by the City Council. This was one of the bike facilities in that master plan. Was there community engagement that was done in the development of the bike master plan?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you detail that a bit?
I was not here in 2017, but I do know that there was robust engagement around the creation of the master plan.
Got it. And to talk about complete streets, please, Director.
Ironically, I was here during that time. So I can talk about that. That was right before I left the city. And there was significant community engagement. It was done in a quadrant format. So we went to and had meetings in all quadrants of the city. And we had them at different times of the day to encompass people's schedule to make sure that people could attend. And so ensuring that people saw what we were engaging and attempting to do within the city as far as the bike master plan. So I would say we spent a considerable amount of time making sure that we engaged the city for this process.
Thank you.
Director, as you know, there's been a good deal of back and forth between the council, specifically the Land Use and Transportation Committee, and the Department of Transportation about community engagement standards, metrics, et cetera. Now is as good a time as any for you to give the Board of Estimates just a very brief update on where the department is in that very lengthy conversation that we've been having.
Yes, so we have developed the standard operating procedures. There are metrics that accompany the Complete Streets guidelines that are associated with the standard operating procedures for community engagement. So that would align with this work that would be happening with the Bike Master Plan. So we have intentions to make sure that, again, along the corridors of this bike lane, to make sure that we are engaging the community, one, letting them know that the process is going to be under design, and then making sure that as we're going through the various design phases, that they are engaged during each one of those design phases, and then subsequently, as we move towards construction, that the community is equally engaged. As mentioned, there is a portion that is being funded by Johns Hopkins. They will also be a party, to the engagement components associated with that portion in that section of the bike infrastructure.
Have you communicated those standards to the chair as well as to my office?
They were communicated back to the Land Use and Transportation Committee. When the request was made, we did, in fact, send over the updated standard operating procedures with the matrix in it, and then it was sent back for some updates where, in turn, we have subsequently made the updates and then sent them back again. I'm happy to forward them back to you, sir, if you need them.
That would be excellent. Looking forward to continuing that conversation in that committee. Other questions from the board? C.A. Leach?
Yes. Director, do you happen to have off the top of your head, so thinking back to the bike master plan as well as complete streets, I think there are a number of goals that we have in those plans regarding the amount of bike facilities that we are able to produce. Can you talk a little bit about where we are with bike facilities in the city? If you had those numbers.
I don't have the numbers offhand. I'll let Sean speak to that a little bit.
So the city currently has about 115 lane miles of what we would consider to be all ages facilities. All ages facilities is just an encapsulating term for things where people of all abilities, ages can feel comfortable and safe utilizing. And that is what has been constructed to date in the city.
Got it. Thank you so much. And I want to use this opportunity to just highlight that next week is Bike to Work Day, if I'm not mistaken. Is it is Monday?
It's Monday.
Oh, I got to get myself together by Monday.
We have a bike actually for you.
Thank you.
And a helmet.
Thanks.
Okay. Seeing no further questions from this board, I would entertain a motion to approve item SB 2514775.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The item is approved. I would also entertain a motion to approve item SB 2611121.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved. Thank you. The next three items all pertain to our city budget for fiscal year 2027. Considering that they are all related and linked, I will call them all for one presentation, and the board will vote on them separately. At the conclusion, those items are as follows: SB 26-11420, BBMR, fiscal year 2027, ordinance of estimates. SB 26-11436, BBMR, annual property tax ordinance, fiscal year 2027. SB 26-11247, planning, FY 27, capital budget and capital improvement program, FY 27 through 32. On behalf of BBMR, we have Director Seneme, Bob Seneme. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, and good morning, Mr. President, Madam CA, Mr. Comptroller, and honorable members of the board. I'm Bob Seneme, Deputy Finance Director, and today I'm here to present these items about the budget, the fiscal 2027 ordinance of estimates, and the proposed property tax rate. So I was first here in front of you on April 1st with our preliminary budget, and since that time, we have passed the next two steps in the process, which are required by the charter, which one is to have a briefing of the board members with agency heads present, which we did on April 22nd. And that evening, we also had our annual taxpayers night, which is also a requirement of our charter. I can say that from the time of the prelim to this final budget, the budget doesn't look that much different. It's very similar. That extra month in the schedule mostly gives us the time to reflect some changes in the final state budget, which we have done. I'll start with the overall numbers in the ordinance. So the operating plan is proposed at $3.95 billion, and the capital plan is proposed at $1.07 billion. So it's a total budget of about $5 billion operating and capital combined. I'll mention quickly again some of the themes that we've talked about before. One is just resilience of our economy. Despite what we're seeing at the state level, at the federal level, and internationally now, the city economy has been, pretty resilient, strong growth in our two biggest sources of revenue, property tax and income tax. Two is that extraordinary level of capital investment we're making this year. Total investment of over $1 billion, $337 million backed by the general fund, which is GO bonds, HUR revenue, and general fund PAYGO capital. And then three, we're maintaining all of our core city services with a couple of targeted investments where we saw opportunity for impact. I just want to mention again that the budget was organized around the 6 pillars, and I'll just mention a couple quick highlights of each of those. Under prioritizing youth, older adults, and vulnerable communities, we have additional investment in early childhood, and we're adding funding in Rec and Parks to open 2 newly renovated rec centers. In public safety, we're continuing some programs that we think have been very effective in Monzi, and we're also investing $35 million in a new Northeast Police District station. Under clean, healthy, sustainable communities, we're adding positions for our graffiti removal response, and we're continuing a targeted version of the Clean Core program. Under equitable economic development, we're adding a dedicated customer service line for permits issues, and we're also providing seed funding for BDC for a new economic development fund. And then under responsible stewardship of city resources, we're building additional in-house capacity in BSIT to reduce our reliance on IT contractors, and adding some funding to support the newly established Office of Business, Licensing and Consumer Protection. Our final pillar is modernizing public infrastructure, and as I mentioned, significant investment in capital this year, over $1 billion, including investment out of the general fund that I want to emphasize is truly extraordinary. It's triple what we've averaged over the last 20 years and was the result of, I think some very good planning on the part of this administration to really make best use of COVID aid and ARPA funds. So the second submission today is the full property tax rate. That rate is proposed at $2.248 per $100 of assessed property for real property. And by law, we're required to set the personal property tax rate at 2.5 times the real property rate. So that number is $5.62 per $100 of assessed value. And those two items, the ordinance of estimates and the property tax ordinance, of course, go and get submitted to council next Monday and get voted on concurrently at the end of the process. So just quickly, next steps in the budget process, we'll introduce these items next Monday in City Council. Our staff is working furiously on our agency detail budget books, the big thick ones that will be delivered to the council next Monday. And then the budget hearing has been scheduled by the city. The schedule for the budget hearings for agencies has been scheduled by the council. Those will kick off on May 27th and run for a little over a week. And then by law, the ordinance and the tax rate must pass by at least 5 days before the end of the fiscal year. So that's where we are in the process. That's what we have today, and happy to answer any questions for board members.
Thank you, Mr. Seneme. Questions from the board? I'm going to reserve mine until we begin debating the budget in the City Council.
Okay.
Hearing and seeing none. Next, thank you, Director Seneme. Next, I will call on Deputy Planning Director Sarah Paranilum. I'm sorry, I always jack up your name. Paranilum, to present on the capital budget item.
Close enough.
Deputy Director, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Sarah Parnellum, Baltimore City Department of Planning. The city charter requires that the Planning Commission make recommendations for a 6-year capital improvement program. At its March 12th, 2026 meeting, the Planning Commission approved recommendations for the 2027 capital budget and the 2027 to 32 capital improvement program. Since that time, a series of changes have been made to update the budget. So the BOE recommended capital budget for FY27 is $5 million higher than the capital budget that was presented in the preliminary plan. And this is a result of adjustments to state grants to reflect the final state budget. The total BOE recommended capital budget for fiscal year 27 is $1,070,676,144. And happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Hearing and seeing no questions, thank you for your presentation. I will note for the public and our clerk that I will abstain on all these items because they will come before the council for a full and robust hearing schedule, which may result in amendments to these items. That being said, I will now entertain a motion to approve item SB 2611436, BBMR, Annual Property Tax Ordinance, Fiscal Year 2027.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The item is approved. Next, I would entertain a motion to approve item SB 2611420, BBMR Fiscal Year 2027 Ordinance of Estimates.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The item is approved. Last, I would entertain a motion to approve item SB 2611247, Planning FY27 Capital Budget and Capital Improvement Programs FY27 through 32.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The item is approved. Sorry about that. The next item on the non-routine agenda is from the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success under SB 2611077. This is a request to approve a 3-year, $450,000 grant from the Casino Local Impact Fund to support Catholic Charities Summer Head Start program on behalf of MOCFS. We have Director Dr. Deborah Brooks. Director Brooks, the floor is yours.
Good morning, President Cohen, Madam C.A. Leach, and Comptroller Henry, honorable board members. First, I would like to thank Mayor Scott for his continued commitment to our youngest learners around early education and early intervening services. And today I am going to talk about our grant agreement. Next slide, please. Associate Catholic Charities is a partner and an awardee of our Casino Local Impact Grant. They are in our ecosystem of Head Starts, and this grant actually funds and supports 3 of the Head Starts. These 2 of our Head Starts are actually located in 2 of our Baltimore City public schools, Arundel Elementary, Westport, and this fund actually supports their summer programming. This grant is over a grant period that actually allocates 90 seats for our students ages 3 through 5. And again, it's around summer programming. Next slide, please. It is very important that we provide a continuum of services throughout the summer at risk for those students that are at risk of any learning loss or skill loss. This program actually has priority seating given to students that have varying needs to ensure that they don't have any skill loss. So those students that are receiving any type of specially designed instruction, as well as continuing to have a consistency of educational programming, as well as family supports for any families that are experiencing homelessness, children in foster care, as well as working families. We also make sure that any students that are transitioning to kindergarten are well equipped with tools so that as they're entering kindergarten, they have all of those needs that are ready so they can be successful in kindergarten. Next slide, please. The time frame for this grant is for a multi-year contract for fiscal years 25 through 27. It is an award that they will receive annually of approximately $150,000, and it's actually a partnership regarding fiscal and programmatic oversight with both the South Baltimore Local Development Council as well as Baltimore City Department of Planning and the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. I will take any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Madam Director. Appreciate your work with Catholic Charities on this, appreciate the additional seats. We'll just say that early childhood education is a huge priority for me as both a former Baltimore City public school teacher and as a dad of 2 young people that truly benefited from being in pre-K. Their teacher, Ms. Camaneris, who I will forever thank, had a profound impact on Maya and is currently having a profound impact on Elias, my 2 babies. And we know from all the research that so much of cognitive development, so much of brain growth goes on in that first 5 years. And so this is a critical investment. We know it is, it pays off major dividends long term. It's one of my goals to have universal pre-kindergarten in the city of Baltimore, as well as increased childhood. And I know for the mayor, who also has young ones, him as well. So just want to thank and big up this partnership, because I think it's critically important that all of our kids have access to high quality early childhood, whether that's Head Start, whether that's traditional public pre-K, whatever it looks like. Getting our young people early is so important. So thank you for leading on that effort.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The item is approved.
Thank you.
The next item on the non-routine agenda comes from the Mayor's Office of Performance and Innovation under SB 2610745. This is a request to approve a donation of services agreement with Sand Tech, Inc. On behalf of the Mayor's Office of Performance and Innovation, we have Director D'Artagnan Swift Williams. Director Williams, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Okay, good morning. President Cohen, City Administrator Leach, and Comptroller Henry. It's a pleasure to be before the Honorable Board this morning. My name is D'Artagnan Williams. I am the Chief Data Officer for the City of Baltimore, and I stand before you today to discuss the donations of services agreement between the Mayor's Office of Performance and Innovation and Sand Technologies. The goal of this initiative is to accelerate the build of the city's data foundations and position Baltimore City to be data and AI ready. Next slide. So in our office, we serve as an internal consultancy for our partner agencies across CityStat and Performance Planning and Innovation Lab and Data and AI Platform Group. Data is at the core of everything that we do. And our mission is to improve city services in ways that residents and the public servants can see and feel. Building on top of what we already do in the city is a great priority of ours. This initiative is not about building or creating a new system or a new platform. It is focused on accelerating the work that we are already doing. And the idea behind the services that would be donated would be to accelerate the build of the work that the data team is focusing on. Next slide. And so why are we here? We want to be transparent about our intent to receive the services from Sand Technologies to accelerate our impact. I have worked in a number of cities, and some of the most successful engagements have been built on strong data foundations, including EMS reform in DC, including special education transportation reform in DC. And we noticed that in industry, some of the best performing organizations scale and perform best when their data is solid at the core. And that's what we want to do in the city of Baltimore. Next slide. And so why does the foundations matter? So data is at the core of everything that we do across all of the agencies. We are often furnishing data in preparations for CityStat and oversight hearings, and preparing for strategic planning exercises within agencies. As it stands today, it takes our agency partners a lot of time to prepare data in a way where it is trusted, where it's reliable, where it's reproducible. Many of us have seen lots of figures floating around, but we always want to be in a position where we can trace it back and verify its integrity and accuracy. And we believe that having this type of foundation built for the city, also by the city, will position all of us, not just OPI, but all of the city agencies that have analysts to work from a trusted set of data. And it'll also position us to be able to integrate systems more effectively so that we can see performance across the various agencies and clusters. So that's part of the grand vision for this work. Next slide. And so this looks very technical, but I'll distill this. What does this all mean when we say a data catalog and governance and semantic layer? That really just means we want to inventory our data assets. We want to classify them properly so that we know what's open, we know what's internal, we know what's sensitive, we know what's classified. We can responsibly indicate who should have access to what. We have documentation behind all of our data sources as well, so that we know what they mean, we know where they come from, and there's fewer surprises across the city. And we run a governance program for all of our data assets across our 30-plus agencies. This positions us to be able to tell a story around what's happening in a neighborhood. It positions us to coordinate city services such as street cuts. I saw the hearing yesterday about vacancies and overtime. We'd be able to access more timely and accurate information on those regards, and we hope to be able to position the city to deliver that with more speed and more fidelity. Next slide. We engage with a number of vendors, and most of the vendors do have to learn how cities work. And that is the case here for Sand Technologies as well. So when Sand Technologies approached us, we noted very clearly that the city does not currently meet the prerequisites to do AI well and at scale. And instead, there's an opportunity to accelerate the build of our foundations so that we can be positioned to manage data properly across the enterprise. And that is the scope of this engagement. So we reframed it to say, all right, if you want an opportunity to learn a local government, if you want an opportunity to be positioned in the space where you provide services to a city, that's great. But here's what we need. What we need is strong data foundations across the city, which will allow for the city staff, again, not just OPI, the fire department, the health department, human services, and you name it, to be able to do analytics at scale and reliably. The idea behind this is to create a citywide capability for all of our agencies and staff that play a role in data. So a couple of questions came up before the hearing. The first was, is this the build of a physical data center? The answer to that is no. This is not a build of a physical data center. The idea is to use the infrastructure that BSID has already provisioned to build data ingest routines on top of that. So my team is currently doing that with a subset of the data sources that we have in the city. Some of those include 311 and permitting. We're working to include work orders in there as well as some of the anonymized financial data sources from Workday. The goal would be to accelerate this work. In addition to accelerating that work, document and describe every data field that comes along with it. So we do have a data catalog, a semantic layer, and attributes about the data that describes what it is. The idea behind this engagement with SAN is to work alongside our team and our infrastructure, following the city's processes, to do more of that work to accelerate the build. The other question was, why does Sand Technologies want to do this for free? Well, I accept the opportunity for Sand to donate their services, but as a chief data officer, I get dozens and dozens and dozens of cold calls and solicitations and asks from professional services providers. There are a number of people that are in this space that are trying to provide services for the city. So it's a competitive space. And especially now the data capabilities are, this is now a focus. I think that this hadn't been as much of a focus for local governments, and so the space is competitive. Well, as a company, I believe that the incentive for SAND is to say, here's what we have done for the city of Baltimore. Here's how we have established credibility in this space. And to do that, we'll donate the services to you so that we now have a portfolio of services that we can offer to other places. We're in a tough situation where we have a big lift to build out a data platform to support all of the services that we do. We're also in a tough situation where we have to balance the budget. And so from my perspective, having been here for 20 months and having tried to find funding from philanthropy and find funding from other sources, we are still not in a position where we can reliably and responsibly build out our data warehouse and data lake at the pace that we need to be able to catch up and get the city positioned to be data ready. For those reasons, I do feel as though this is a compelling proposal to accelerate the work that we're doing. And I would like to go before the board to request your approval to approve this donations of services agreement to build a partnership between OPI and Sand Technologies. Lastly, what does success look like? Next slide, please. We believe that success looks like a future where we do have a reliable, we know what data we have, we know what it means, people can use it, people can access it responsibly. We can produce reproducible research, and that all of our data analysts, data engineers, and data scientists across the agency are not blocked from doing their job because they have a quality set of data to work with. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director. Let me just first say, really support our efforts to be a tech-forward city. I think it's incredibly important that Baltimore is positioned as a world leader in this space. We want to be ahead of the curve. We also want to be putting thoughtful guardrails into place. So was glad to hear you say this is not a data center. There's a bill in front of the council, which I am sponsoring, that would put a one-year moratorium on data centers. Where, I assume in the cloud, but where is the data being stored for SAND?
Okay. I'll explain the way that it works today. So the city of Baltimore has a subscription with Microsoft Azure. BSID has been very, very intentional about utilizing a tech stack in accordance with our information security policies. So Azure is behind the city's firewall. So that is where we deploy and store our data artifacts for this project. My team does that today. Right now we have a Linux box where we have our data in the city's infrastructure. You cannot access that data if you're not on a VPN. And the same thing applies to Microsoft Azure, which is where we will work for this project. Nothing about the data that we'll be working on is outside of our network. Nothing about the data that we'll work on is in another system or another cloud or another place. They'll work alongside our group, following our processes to work on the data in our infrastructure, which is behind our firewall and not accessible outside of our network. No special accounts are set up for this as well. The accounts are on baltimorecity.gov. In order to access any infrastructure in the city, you do need to have an account, and you need to follow two-factor authentication, and you need to be on a machine that can access our physical infrastructure as provisioned by BSID.
Understood. I'm going to take a whack at the premise here. This is a $0 agreement. There's the saying, there's no free lunch. We know that when social media companies came to town, they also offered you can be on Twitter and Facebook and all these things for free, except that they are sucking out both our data as well as our attention, and we now have a generation of children that are addicted to social media and a ton of other incredibly deleterious impacts on health and thriving. I heard your explanation of sort of what you believe to be the exchange, which, to paraphrase, is essentially this is a competitive space, municipal data. They want to be a first actor. They want to be early in the space. I hear that. I am curious whether you feel not to ascribe any kind of good, bad, or indifferent motives to someone that is not you, but do you believe that is the complete story? Are there other incentives? Are there other reasons why SAND would want to provide this service to the city of Baltimore for free?
I'll answer that in two ways. I will say that I understand that it can feel very strange and suspicious, right? And data as an asset is once that is out, right, then it's out, right? There's nothing that you can do to get that back. However, one of the biggest controls that we have for this is what data will SAND Technologies be working with. So we're talking about service requests, work orders, permit data, specifically permit data that is on the open data portal. Property and violent crime, specifically property and violent crime, is also on the open data portal. When we get into sensitive and otherwise classified information, that is not part of the scope for this engagement. And so if there are individuals, if there's PII, if there's other super confidential or classified information like a plans review, right, I can understand how valuable that type of data is. That is not a part of the scope for this engagement. What's in scope is the information that we have to coordinate city services. What's in scope is the information that we publish on the Open Data Portal, and what's in scope is the information that we use to understand insights across agencies. And so when you're thinking about the vacants, or when you're thinking about effective ways to pull in the vacant lots and connect those to city services, that's what's in scope for this. The reason why we want to do a good job to accelerate this is to show what is within the realm of possibility when you have a solid foundation for the many services and systems that we provide. That way we can get into a situation where we have an architecture that we ask for our partner agencies to fold into, and build the foundation that the analysts across the city can work with. I really do believe that this is an opportunity for SAN to get a notch on the belt, right? And so when it's time to go to Detroit or Philadelphia or some other city, the narrative is, look at what we have done for the great city of Baltimore. I do not believe that this is an opportunity to suck data out of the city for intelligence or otherwise insider insights on how the city of Baltimore is running to position them with a competitive advantage for working with cities or otherwise. That's how I feel about this.
Do you believe that they are utilizing this opportunity to train their AI?
I do not believe that they're utilizing this opportunity to train their AI because their AI is not part of this. What they're doing is working to ingest our data into our systems. And yes, we will deploy statistical models in our infrastructure, but those statistical models are the city of Baltimore's property. And so, for example, let's say that we deploy a model to predict where let's say that we deploy a model to gauge the efficacy of the materials used to repave a street. And we use data such as where have we repaved first, where have there been a resurgence of potholes, and the cost to repair those. That's a pretty interesting insight. What comes from that, though, is city's intelligence that stays in the city. That is not something that goes into SAN's system somewhere else. That's a mechanism to further train a proprietary model that is used to inform city services across the nation. What is trained and what is used and what is deployed here is on Baltimore's data for the use of the city of Baltimore and not sent to some other place for training a broader corpus of information.
CA?
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to add a little bit of context as well. So SAN Technologies actually, when they approached us, they talked to us about work that they had done in the city of St. Louis with the former mayor of St. Louis. And so again, to the point that the director was mentioning, they were pointing to the work that they did with St. Louis and their water system and some of the progress that they helped the city of St. Louis make. This is what I will call, this is a limited, partnership that we're moving forward. We had talked about a broader partnership, but we decided to first, let's talk about building the city's data foundations, which is what Director Swift-Williams was describing. So just wanted to add a little bit of context and color about how we were connected to this work. And then when we think about the broader work within the Office of Performance and Innovation, remember, we have a Bloomberg-funded I-team. I think 9 of 11 positions are funded by Bloomberg. So a lot of our innovation work is funded through partnerships, and of course, some investment from the city as well. But just wanted to add some additional context there.
Thank you, Madam Administrator. Mr. Comptroller?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. So I haven't actually worked in IT since the George W. Bush administration, so I don't pretend to be any kind of subject matter expert. So I'm going to ask some kind of what may be basic questions. I think you were speaking towards it, but I wanted to make sure I understand. Where is our data now? The data that we will be using, because I've seen it referred to on the platform as it's already cloud-based. but does that mean that we don't have any local facility here, or it's in wherever Azure is keeping all of the data that's in Azure?
So I'm going to answer it a couple of ways.
Yeah.
So when we say where is our data now, right,
Yeah.
there are many, many, many systems deployed across many, many agencies. And so right now, let us say, so 311, for example, is on Salesforce. That data is in Salesforce's data center where Salesforce hosts it, right? Our ERP is on Workday. That information is on where Workday hosts their data center. And the list goes on. For this project, for our citywide Baltimore City's data platform, we are hosting this in Azure. And this is associated with the City of Baltimore's subscription to Azure. What happens there is we have to pick what we call zones, and what those mean are geographies and data centers in the United States where the information is hosted. I believe
So we get to choose.
Yeah, so and BSID is pretty intentional about this, right? So there are zones. I think one of them is like in Northern Virginia. There's some in U.S. Central, et cetera. But the most basic answer to your question is one, the city systems, right, can vary if they are hosted in the cloud, like Workday, like Excella, like 311. There are still a handful of systems that the city hosts on-prem, but the majority of major enterprise systems today are in the cloud. That's number one. Number two, the data platform, the information here pulls from those systems and brings them into a place. That place is hosted in the Azure cloud that is provisioned by BSID.
Okay. The reason I wanted to bring that up is the council president raised the issue of there's been an extensive public conversation over whether Baltimore should or should not have data centers, or like why we should prohibit them. And I feel philosophically responsible to add to that public conversation that all of the reasons I have heard why it's bad to have data centers in your wherever you are, that does not change. Like, that does not change. I don't know that I've ever heard someone say, this would be a good place for a data center, as opposed to Baltimore is a bad place for a data center. So I just want to make sure that when we're making these decisions and we're having these public conversations, that all we're saying is that we're going to continue to use the tools that require data centers. We just don't want to have them in our city. But anywhere else where you guys are willing to sacrifice your quality of life, thank you, because you're where we're going to keep our data as we continue to make our city more forward-thinking and more forward-acting. Just wanted to check in on that. The other question, you made reference to Sand's motivation might be they want to have a notch on their belt. And this is where I think I'm following up on one of the places that the council president may have been going. I'm looking for the distinction between a notch on the belt and a foot in the door. Because we're about to have a longer conversation after this item about a contract with a company that started out really small, but is about to be really big. And so you said that in your role, you are deluged with tech companies and providers who reach out to you and want to offer you, this or that, and you have picked Sand to have further conversations with and maybe run out this agreement. What I'm curious about is if there clearly is a lot of interest out there, and there are a lot of different providers out there, and many of them are interested in providing their services for free because they just want you to know that their product is great. Why wouldn't we do like an RFP and have a, request for free proposals? Like, why wouldn't we put it out there that, hey, if you're interested in working with us, just send in all your proposals, and we go through a more normal, open, and transparent RFP process, and then we pick the one that is definitely the best.
I'll answer this a couple of ways. The first, yes, I get called by so many providers. If I go to a conference, I'm swarmed by many, many, many people that want to do data work. At the moment that we talk budget, the moment that we talk dollars, the conversation ends, right? Because today, I cannot afford to purchase anything from any provider. Sure. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when you mentioned notch on the belt or the foot in the door, we were very clear about this ends with this engagement, and SAND cannot engage in a paid engagement and this space after this, because of the competitive advantage that you would get from understanding our processes and understanding how we do data ingest. The third thing is interesting, right? Well, I'll say the third thing is we are not purchasing a platform. We are not purchasing a product, right? These are folks that are, imagine it as, my tiny data team, right? Some additional consultants that are an extension of this tiny data team to accelerate the work that we're doing. So it's not a product, it is not a platform. The fourth bit is interesting, right? Is there, hey, community, is there anyone that is interested in providing these types of services at zero cost? I think that it's an interesting, I think it's actually, I think it's a good idea. Yeah. We did not explore that option. For one, I just wasn't aware of it. But then two, at this juncture, right? We have been working since last July for almost 10 months, right? To walk this through ethics, law, and procurement, and all of the other entities, right? And so I would say we have invested a considerable amount of time to bring this before you today. I don't hate the idea. I do think that we have, after nearly 10 months of vetting and 10 months of discussion on this, you learn a bit about the company, you learn about their players. We have asked them to demonstrate their technical abilities. We've had many conversations about their skill set, their experience in past places, the products that they've built in the past. Today, I do feel confident that they're a good provider that can meet the moment. I also don't hate the idea of opening it up.
Let me be very candid. I'm sorry if I missed that in your presentation, that part of the agreement involves SAND being prohibited from bidding on future work for the city, because I didn't catch that in your presentation. If I'd realized that, then I wouldn't have made the foot in the door allusion. Because at that point, if by virtue of doing this agreement, they are barred from doing future work, in that case, and I want to say this in a respectful fashion, in that case, I'm kind of glad that they didn't go through a real RFFP process, because they might not be the best. And if they're not the best, then I don't mind so much that they're not barred from bidding on stuff in the future. The only place I'm a little worried now is if it turns out that they would be the best out there at doing this, we've just thrown them out of the pool for doing the work in the future. That's so. I'm going to say that just as an observation, not as a direct criticism. But I think
Mr. Comptroller.
Yeah, I think those were just one thing I had left is I think this was on the second or third slide. Modern service delivery is less about buying more tools and more about using data design and existing tools better. I love that. I'm actually thinking about having that printed up on nice cards and having that sent to all the other agency heads.
Indeed.
Okay.
So two things really quickly.
Sure.
Madam CA.
So I just asked our chief procurement officer, and he said, what did you call it, RFFP?
RFFP.
He said that's not a thing. I was like, Adam, is that a thing? But
Request for really low cost protein.
But I do think that that's a really interesting idea. My, I guess, counter to that is when like I mentioned that our team is funded by Bloomberg, and when Bloomberg approached us and said, hey, we want to give you 9 people for free, we didn't say, well, let's go to the market and see who else wants to give us 9 people for free. We took it.
Well, but Bloomberg's not.
Hang on, Mr. Comptroller?
Yeah, but I don't think of Bloomberg as a vendor. Does Bloom, like the part of the entity that is philanthropically providing us with, so I mean, I guess.
Because they're for profit and they're.
So Bloomberg is for profit.
No, I'm talking about SAND.
Yeah, SAND is a for-profit entity. So, I mean, I'm trying to be real, polite and respectful here, but
of course,
when what you said about social media and how I will never not think of the cartoon I saw years ago for Facebook, which is if you're not the customer, you're the product. You know, if you're not paying for it, they're making money on you somehow. Yeah, and so I accept. I appreciate the box you've put them in for this. I think that's you've done a great job of putting safety constraints on this, and you had answers for all the questions we had to make sure that there's not some way that we're getting the short end of the stick on this,
or they're extracting our data, or whatever.
Right, like that. So I'm feeling good about our chances of not actually being the product. Still got that sort of what do they get out of it?
Well, I mean, so look, to that point, and the director talked about this engagement being 10 months. It's almost been a year, because we went through this, very rigorous process because, of course, we had the same questions. I think based off of our conversations with other cities and other mayors and leaders who had partnered with the organization, and, given the rigor of the evaluation of our legal team and all the parameters that we put into it, and this limited kind of scope of a project is what we felt comfortable about. But again, I just want to reiterate here the points that you all are making, and making it clear to the viewing and listening public that it is critically important for us to protect the city's data, which is why we went through this rigorous process. And if at any point throughout this engagement we feel that we are concerned about the direction that we're going in, we have an opportunity to disengage and to pull back. BSIT was at the table with us around this, the law department, ethics as well. I believe we ran this through them as well. So, we've done our checks and balances, and, hopefully what comes out of this is a more structured data inventory for the city of Baltimore, because as you heard the director talk about, our data is in multiple places, and what we need to get to when it comes to the city's data, as he talked about, it needs to be quickly replicable, for example, right? We have so many different systems that are not necessarily talking to each other, and what we have to build as a city is that strong data foundation, and the supplemental consultant work that SAND is providing will help expedite that for our chief data officer and his very tiny data team. So, thank you.
Small but mighty.
Small but mighty indeed. Thank you.
Yeah, a reporter texted me a reminder of the time when a philanthropist wanted to buy us a spy plane. Just a reminder that not all philanthropy is always benevolent. Not to say that we are not grateful that the Bloomberg Foundation has supported your job among several others. Not his job anymore?
No, Chief Innovation Officer.
Oh, your work. All right. Nevertheless, I think it's a good conversation. I think it's really important that we are all incredibly eyes open when it comes to technological innovation and companies seeking to partner with us, knowing that the future of AI is so much in flux, and that everyone has a self-interest at the end of the day, and that we, the city of Baltimore, have our own self-interest. And I think you have effectively articulated what that interest is in this case. I think there are big, bulging thought bubbles of skepticism coming from the comptroller and I as we have this conversation, as I'm sure you all have as well. But appreciate the extensive vetting, checking, and guardrails that you've sought to place on this contract. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. This item is approved. The next item on the non-routine agenda is from the Procurement Office under SB 26-11026. This is a request to approve a contract award with Universal Protection Services, LLC, for unarmed security guard services. On behalf of procurement, we have Chief Adam Manny. Chief Manny, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller, Madam City Administrator, honorable board members. Adam Manning, your Chief Procurement Officer. I'm here today before you for a request to award the RFP for unarmed security services to Universal Protection Services, doing business as Allied Universal Security Services. With me, I do notice that Director Attila from DGS is here along with Ryan Jeffries. I'm going to speak to you on the procurement aspect of what we did and how we did this. And then if the board is interested, I do know that the DGS team has a presentation which will go into more of the operational. So we started with is we issued a solicitation to obtain qualified vendors for the unarmed security services. The process was conducted in accordance with our procurement regulations and policies to ensure fairness, transparency, and competition. The solicitation was publicly advertised through multiple platforms, including the city's Workday platform, the eMaryland Marketplace Advantage, known as EMMA, local statewide publications, including The Sun, and 3 minority publications. At the end of the solicitation, the solicitations came into the comptroller's office. We received 10 proposals from this solicitation. As the 10 proposals were reviewed, 6 of those proposals were deemed to be responsive, and we moved forward. The other 4 were removed from the competition as we went forward. Those proposals were reviewed by legal. They were also reviewed by the Mayor's Office of Small Minority Business Advocacy and Development. As SMB&D was doing their review, there are goals here on this of, I want to say 20 and 10%, I have that here. 27% MBE goal and 10% WBE goal. When SMB&D did the review of the 6 proposals that moved forward, they found that all of the proposals were non-compliant. Since all of the proposals were non-compliant, BOP gave all the 6 of them an opportunity to cure their non-compliance. Out of that cure, 5 of the proposals came forward that met the SMB&D, and they moved forward. The selection committee then reviewed on a technical evaluation criteria those 5 proposals moving forward and scored them. The scoring was independent, and when we're talking about scoring, they are scoring the proposal versus the RFP, not proposal to proposal. The criteria included qualification and experience, the personnel, references, transition of services, and the economic benefit to the city. After the scoring was done, the 3 highest technical proposals were then discussed in a summary fashion, and pricing was then reviewed based upon the technical proposals, where the person we are recommending is the highest scored technical proposal, along with the lowest dollar value to the city. We are recommending that we move forward with Allied Universal Security Services. I do know that Ryan in his proposal does meet that the hourly wage rate does meet and/or exceed the limit that the board has put in for security guards through the city as we're going forward. I'm happy to turn it over to them for their presentation, or
Just if I could get a little bit more clarification on that. Specifically, I was going to ask, how does the hourly rate compare to the most recent emergency contract we were using?
I don't have that number off the top. Actually, if I'm correct, it is actually a higher rate off the top of my head.
Okay, I saw Burke earlier.
He's right here.
Okay, oh,
I'm blocking
like,
him.
Wait, yeah, I was like, do you have that number?
I don't. Hello, everybody. My name is Berke Atilla, Director, Department of General Services. I think it is lower, but I would like to confirm the emergency is higher, right, Ryan?
Okay, that's the part I wanted to check on is I know people were satisfied with the most recent emergency number we approved, but I also know that there were some concerns that the way the RFP was worded, that we could get a low bid that managed the low bid by having a lower hourly rate than what we were doing at that point.
Yes, sir. And when we, back long ago, it feels like ages when we started this conversation, this was done entirely on the technical scoring.
Okay.
So somebody in a lot of...
Oh, so this was not low bid in that regard?
No, sir. This
Okay.
was a request for proposal. It was best value for the city.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So cost was not one of those technical scores.
All right.
We awarded based upon technical. We do open the pricing for the top to ensure that the pricing meets what the board set forward in the hourly
we did
rates.
have a
That we have
floor.
the budget
Okay.
to do what we need to do, and it meets everything that we are going forward. If the budgets weren't there, we would negotiate with the top ranked so we could get within budget and move forward.
Gotcha.
But yes, that was taken into consideration, and with your predecessor, sir, that was, I know was a big thing with him. This was done completely on technical merit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
And there
Com.
is a presentation, if the board is interested, from DGS.
DGS, could we make it snappy?
Ryan?
By snappy, like maybe just beginning and end.
Mr. Council President, Mr. Comptroller, Madam CA, my name is Ryan Jeffries, Deputy Chief of Procurement and Contracts for the Department of General Services. In order to be expeditious in this presentation, please pull it up for me on my end. Going through the overview of services with this award, we are looking at a $30 million contract for 3 years on a base with 2 one-year option periods. This is to cover over 150 buildings across the entire city portfolio. As Adam had mentioned previously, it is subjected to the 27% MBE and 10% WBE goals. And I wanted to highlight some key pieces of information on the next slide. Per our request for proposal, we had a non-compete clause where anybody that's currently employed with the provider of Abacus is not subjected to be covered by a non-compete. So that means they have to maximize the hiring from the current provider to bring them on board with Allied Universal. Second, Allied has promised to work with SEIU, the local 32BJ union, to support and hire up to over 140 Baltimore City residents and provide for that coverage within their existing new contract coming online. Next slide, please. As a part of some issues that we've faced throughout the city and surge issues, Allied employs over 4,000 employees across the local region. So if there ever needs to be a surge, we don't want to expect our existing security guards to have to cover for overtime and emergency requirements outside of their normal scope and routine coverage and services, unless they so choose to do as such. With this deployment of our security force, it's going to create a safer Baltimore with effective crime deterrence and community safety engagement by having these representatives that are both internally city residents and also from the region and be present and known. And go to the next slide, please. With the award to Allied, they are currently employing almost 81% minority employees. 72% of that is Black or African American, and 37% are female employees. Allied Universal receives over 900 resumes a week for employment for individuals within the Baltimore City region, not just their entire workforce in the regional area. Now, per the City Ordinance 26094, which has an effective date of February 9, 2026, with the start date of January 1, 2027, there is a requirement to meet for Guard 1 payment of $23.83 an hour, and that's including health care coverage. Allied's bid exceeds this amount significantly at a ratio of about 20% over top of this. If awarded and selected and approved by the board today, that information will be publicly available. And going into the next slide, you see our procurement timeline going through the entire process that Adam was alluding to, and that is all I have today.
Thank you very much. Questions from the board? Mr. Comptroller?
Well, I see a lot of purple in the audience, and most of them are smiling, so I assume that's a good thing. Okay, yeah.
We deeply respect our
Yeah.
security guard staff in the city, and we want to make sure that their needs are met with this new contract award. And that's why we took all those special exemptions inside of the request for proposal to make sure we could meet all of those needs.
Okay, were there a statement of opposition for this?
There was one
Yes,
noted.
there is one.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Before going to statement of opposition, do want to acknowledge the good work of our security team here in the city of Baltimore. Deeply appreciative of what you all do, keeping folks in this building safe, keeping folks across the city safe. Also want to acknowledge our labor chair, Councilman Jermaine Jones, who really did a yeoman's work in working with all of us to raise wages across the board for security workers. We know that people who do public safety work should not be paid a poverty wage. And so was very grateful to the councilman's leadership, as well as you all for supporting that important legislation. And it's always good to have 32BJ in the House with us today. With that, we will note that the board received a statement of opposition from Cynthia Mohammed on behalf of Asim Security Agency, Inc., who performs as a subcontractor on unarmed security guard contracts. Ms. Mohammed indicated that she would not speak, assuming she has not changed her mind. Are there any other additional questions from the board before we vote? I hear and see none. I would then entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. This item is approved. The final item on the non-routine agenda is from the Procurement Office for the Baltimore Police Department under SB 2611338. This is a request to approve a 10-year, $153.2 million select source agreement with Axon Enterprise, Inc. for the department, the Baltimore Police Department. On behalf of BPD, we have Andy Smullian. Mr. Smullian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm actually going to defer to our Chief Technology Officer, Derek Cannon.
Sir.
Good morning, Honorable Council President, Honorable Chief Administrator. Good morning, ma'am. I'm Derek Canton. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the Police Department, and I'm going to speak about the follow-on contract with Axon. What we're asking for, as stated, is $153 million for a 10-year contract. We'll address why we want to use Axon, why a 10-year contract, what the options were for us, and what risk mitigations are in place, and what the value proposition is. Axon is the largest commercial solution provider focused solely on officer safety technology support, and we don't believe that Axon is going to disappear from the industry anytime soon. We believe they're going to be long-standing. They own the conducted energy weapon market. Most police agencies across the United States, yet even across the world, use Axon tasers, and it's the device that we're using. The products within the Axon ecosystem are integrated and connected, and that's valuable for us because then we don't have to worry about creating APIs or associations with other companies or businesses to make sure that we can access our data or the information that we need to do our work. Axon's been a city vendor for the last 15 years. They started with body-worn camera 2. And prior to that, there were tasers, the X25 and X26, that were used by the police department. They're critically important. One of the most important products that we believe that we have from them is their records management product, their RMS system, Axon Records. We're asking for a 10-year contract because that gives us the lowest priced option. The prices are locked over the life of the contract. It gives us budget predictability. It allows us to future-proof BPD's investment because we get no-cost upgrades. So that is included in the contract. We get to avoid the costs associated and the time associated with moving from one vendor to another if we stay with this company. We've been with them for quite some time, and I've had the experience of trying to migrate from one application to the other. And in doing that, there is considerable time, there is considerable cost, because what we're paying for is whatever the new system is and the old system as we're trying to move over from one to the other. So these were the options for us: 10-year, 5-year, and a la carte. Okay, and as you can see in the graph, it shows that the 10-year is the least expensive of the options. The 5-year with 5-year renewal increases cost by $6 million per year, and then the a la carte option was just really, really expensive in my mind. All right, so I know that currently our spend is not that much. Oh well, $5 million, still a lot of money, but all the same, I realize that the spend is increased over time, and that's because I believe that Axon has increased the amount of services that they provide with their product offering. The risk mitigations that we have in place: we have termination for convenience. There is a non-appropriation off-ramp. There's an annual contract opt-out option, either in part or in whole, and then we get favored customer pricing. Most favored customer pricing. When we take a look at the value proposition, all right, we get to stay compliant. As the board knows, we are in consent decree, and a great portion of the consent decree relies on our ability to provide data and to also demonstrate that we can effectively use some of the tools that are made available to us, including body-worn cameras. We get to have some gains in efficiencies from our officers, especially in terms of the records management system. Again, having had experience with the older records management system where we're able to do incident reporting, we did not do case management out of that old system. What we used for case management at the time was Lotus Notes. Okay, now case management is handled within Axon Records. So both incident reporting, case management are inside of Axon Records. It's one source of truth. We no longer have these discussions where we could talk about, someone's data saying one thing and another person's data saying another. There are other tools that are available to us. We're looking at the opportunity for enhanced training with virtual reality, and we're going to explore using the constituent experience tools that they have with My90 and community requests. And then the other products will include officer awareness, which will give us a real-time crime center that we'll be able to use to better protect our communities. That's the end of my presentation, unless there are any questions.
Thank you. I have concerns about whether sufficient effort was made to access the market for these services and our ability to secure competitive pricing. Was there any analysis conducted to compare this approach against a more competitive procurement process?
So when we entered into this one, we realized that we were with Axon for quite some time, okay? We further realized that Axon developed their products with Baltimore City in mind, and as a result of the development effort, the product that's been created has been desired by multiple cities. Many cities across the country have come to visit with us to see how well the products work, okay? I know that the digital evidence management system that Axon provides is unique in the industry. Very few people have a digital evidence management system that combines their body-worn cameras with it or any other systems, and that is probably the greatest value that we'll have. So I think that Axon has cornered the market in that area in addition to the CEWs.
I appreciate that, but you didn't answer my question. Can you try that again? Was there an effort made, and this is not a critique of Axon, this is a internal question about how we are doing competitive bidding in the city of Baltimore, and knowing that in a competitive marketplace, when we look at multiple bids, it can often lead to companies having to outbid, outcompete each other. I understand your premise, which is that Axon has significant market share, that Axon has a strong product, that it is desirable. That does not satisfy my question, which is about were we able to do comparative analysis? Were we able to enlist other potential bidders to engage with us? Again, the idea of a competitive marketplace is people compete, and hopefully that means the price goes down for whoever you land on. Not critiquing Axon's product, but more so a question about our internal processes.
You have engaged the procurement office.
Mr. Manning?
Yesterday was Revenge of the Fifth, sir. I know that you'll get that. Thank you. Again, Adam Manning, your Chief Procurement Officer. The answer, sir, is yes. Of course, we could go out and do a solicitation for these services. The distinction with this part of the decision-making process on why we didn't go out is the nature of this is it's not a one item. It's not like we're just getting a taser to tase somebody that the officers need. It's a complete system that the city has been using for a long period of time. Could we get another company to come out and do it? Absolutely. But there are immense costs that would go with that. It would be retooling all the processes. It would be retraining all of the officers. It would be the data collection that we currently have and a variety of other things. After conversations with the police, as we were going forward, it was part of the determination, because that was my pushback as part of this multiple times, is really it was in the best interest of the city as we continued going for the select source. Like I said, those other sunken costs, not just dollars, but time, energy, others, and what we've been using for so long, because everything is interconnected. The determination was to go with the select source and move forward. And BOP was in agreement with that at the end of the day.
Understood. Again, I'll just state that I think we owe it to ourselves, to the residents that live here and pay taxes, to engage in competitive bidding processes where humanly possible. I am clear that this is a company that we have a track record with. This is a company that has, I think, been a good partner to the police department. Where I am, and I heard, Mr. Manny, your point about if we were to shift, there would be substantial costs to change the body cams, to have a different taser system, that any transition away from an existing vendor is going to incur additional expenses. Fully grasp and comprehend that concept. At the same time, I still think competitive bidding is important, and it serves a purpose even during that bidding process, which is to make companies have to compete to provide the best value of service to the city of Baltimore.
You're preaching to the choir, sir. You know I always like to do competition, but as we were doing this in conjunction with them, with everything being equal as we did, there was this determined, and I agreed with them on what we were, but I'm not disagreeing with you in general, but for this specific item, this was the determination.
Understood. Let me go to the comptroller and then the city administrator.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Adam, I'm not going Star Wars. That wasn't the reference. I'm wondering why Santiago wasn't packed. Like, if you're concerned about the cost of switching to a different system, that concern is only relevant if Axon isn't the best system. And you spent a lot of time telling us that Axon is the best system, and that 19 of the 20 largest police departments all use Axon. And you listed all the great things about Axon's individual products and their record management system. And I was willing to buy into that Axon is great, and that these are the best tools that we can be providing to our officers. even though modern service delivery is less about buying more tools and more about using data and design and existing tools better, according to the Mayor's Office of Performance and Innovation. But if you're worried at all about the cost of retooling, that implies that there is doubt in your mind that Axon is best. And that's where I agree with the council president. I don't understand why we wouldn't still, on just principle, still go to the market periodically and make sure and reassure ourselves that Axon is the best. Because if they're not the best, then you can come back to us at the end of an RFP and say, this other one was fractionally better, but the delta of the retooling cost is going to be greater than what benefit we would get from them being fractionally better. So this is our justification for staying. That's how I think best practices, and I'm hesitant to use that term looking at the actual subject matter expert, but intuitively, that's how I would expect the procurement process to work for something that is even on the one-year level as substantial of a commitment as this is. Now,
I'm going to go to City Administrator Faith. I will note that that Santiago reference went over my head, so if we could unpack that at a...
We've talked to a few good men.
Okay. Got it. City Administrator.
Thank you. Just a couple of follow-up questions and some commentary as well. I wholeheartedly agree around how our procurement system should work and how we should prioritize competitive bidding. Now, as it relates to this contract, just a couple of follow-up questions. So we talk a lot about our partnership with Axon. Can we, one, describe all of the things that are included in this contract? And my follow-up question is there a single vendor that can provide all of the things that are included in this contract, or would we have to break up the contract in order to actually, do the competitive bidding? Can y'all talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we have a list of all the products that are available. I can have Elliot talk about that. And I would tell you that if we had to go to a different vendor, we would have to break up a good majority of the work. We have the products.
Honorable members of the board, for the record, Elliot Schlanger, I am an internal consultant for the police department. Let me just say several things that haven't come out yet. In this contract, the bread and butter are the tasers and the body worns. And in our current contract, that represents about 80% of the cost. There is no company that makes a replacement for the taser that would work in a large agency like ours. So if we were going out for tasers alone, which represents a large part of this contract, we would definitely have the case for a sole source, I believe. On the body worns, the vendors come to us all the time and they say, we have a camera, right? And you look at the camera, let's assume in this case it's really a body-worn camera. It looks cool, it records video, audio, you can store it in the cloud. And then we ask, well, how does that relate to your incident reports? Or how does that relate to case management? And there's no path to integration there. So as it stands, of the 25 largest law enforcement agencies in the country today, virtually all of them use the body-worn cam. So now we're talking the majority of the contract, as evidenced by the industry, is what Axon is selling to successfully. One other point. So when we got involved with Axon, their case management software was very weak. And they had pledged to us that they would work in partnership to develop that software to meet the requirements of BPD. And after 5 years, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. One, Axon has lived up to that, and the product that we see today is very acceptable to our CID folks. And the second thing is, that there's no other vendor that is going to be able to reproduce, if you will, that software with the integrations, with the customizations that, in fact, we've seen here today. So it is possible that we could come up with in a total suite of requirements, and it would be in the area of thousands and thousands to put out to an RFP. But not only would we not be able to get the custom system that we have, but we believe there's no one system supplier out there, and we would have to break this up and bid it. And then we'd have to worry about how to do the engineering to tie all the pieces together as one. Thank you.
Mr. Salzberg?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one other point, make a point and then ask a question. Just to follow up on Chief Manny, I think we all are very much in favor of competitive bidding. One thing that we haven't talked about so much, that I wanted to ask the department about, and thank the chief for speaking to, is at this moment in time, I come here with the background and experience of representing us with respect to the consent decree. And given where we are at sort of an inflection point of the finish line is in sight in the next few years, we believe, we've been told by the court, into coming into full compliance, the department has made phenomenal progress over the last several years. I think we're at something like 83% of the portions of the consent decree are at a stage of initial compliance. A number have now been found in full and effective or have been terminated altogether. That, coupled with a historic moment of a decrease in violent crime and crime across the board, both, I think we would all agree, amazing things, really, huge milestones to be celebrated. Can you just speak a little bit to, setting aside, of course, there's going to be a cost to switching systems, but from an operational pressure point of basically pulling out root and stem our entire IT system to go with somebody else, what, if any, disruption that could have, both in terms of our drive to reach full and final compliance with all portions of the consent decree, as well as some of the operational successes we've had in crime. And I say that just to preempt what I know, that does not mean that we never ever should be looking at the market. Of course, you cannot just say because we have a product and it's integral to the success we've had, we can't look anywhere else. But it is a factor when you're doing that cost-benefit analysis, and I'm curious to hear the department speak to, I think about what we went through with Workday a couple of years ago, and I think it's been successful, but it is disruptive. And that was building a system that we never even had to begin with. So if you're talking about replacing or changing wholesale, what, if any, would be the operational impact of something like that?
Thank you. So the police department, and especially the IT section of the consent decree, is right now in full and effective compliance. So we're in our sustainment period. By January next year, my expectation is that we will be out of the consent decree. When I take a look at the paragraphs of the consent decree, a great percentage of them rely on the availability and the integrity of the data. Okay, so the data is now available. In one of the sessions that we had in court, when I had to present particularly about the IT section of the consent decree, prior to my having an opportunity to speak, around me, folks were saying, well, the data says this or the data says that. They were all conversing about the data, okay, that magically became available. And the reason why it became available is through the effort of technology and through the purchase of some of the products that we have here today. So if we were, this contract expires June 30th, okay, and I'm sure that there's something else that could be done, if we don't continue with Axon, but it would be absolutely disruptive. Okay, I think that it would be extremely difficult to implement or to even just like get another system up and running, providing the data that we need to have right now. Data across the country or crime across the country has gone down, and I would suggest that the reason why crime across the country has gone down is because of the availability of data. Folks are able to now truly deploy to wherever they feel a need to deploy, because now they're not waiting the 28-day cycle to get to the data. It's nearer real time, and this is what Axon is providing for us. So other companies out there that can provide it, I'm sure, okay. I'm concerned that we would lose. You know what I mean? If
Well,
we had change.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Chief Gann. I hadn't even thought about. I was talking about the consent decree broadly. You make a really good point about the technology section now being in our sustainment period. I can't even imagine what that would mean from the purpose of a compliance assessment going in and saying we're going to actually change our records management and body-worn camera and taser. Again, ultimately, long-term, it doesn't mean that we are foreclosed from looking elsewhere. It's a specific interest that I have that I wanted to make sure got aired in this hearing. So, thank you.
Let me go to City Administrator and then Comptroller.
Yep. So I just wanted to know a couple of additional things. So I worked closely with the police department on this contract, raising some of the same concerns that this board raised. I typically am not a fan of long-term contracts. So a period of 10 years, you're really going to have to convince me as to why I'm going to pass something down to, other administrations after ours. But what we were able to do and what we were able to negotiate with Axon is multiple options to do off-ramps throughout this contract. Can you all just speak to like the guardrails that we have put in place around this contract so that if and ever, one, we don't have the budget for it, because that's the thing that is very important to me is in looking at the cost of this. We were able to certify, we have the costs that are available, but you're now talking about 10 years down the line. And so I wanted to ensure that there was parameters in there that if we didn't have the appropriation, we could back out of the contract. But there are also additional off-ramps that are in the contract as well as opt-in options that I want us to speak to.
Can I ask for a clarification on that?
Sure.
'Cause I don't know, not speaking for the councilperson, I understand all the off-ramps. I get that.
Great.
Yeah, what is the one part I wasn't certain about is, I know we have off-ramps for those specific things. Okay, I just want to be clear that those also allow us to, at whatever point we are so inclined, we could just voluntarily decide, you know what, we're going to go to the market and we're just going to check in and we're going to see where people are. And we can either, we can either make it, practically impossible that anyone else will bid by putting out an RFP for exactly what we're already getting from Axon, which I don't know would be the best way to go about it. But we could also, break it up and make it plausible that people could bid on different parts of it, understanding as we do so that the likelihood is that we are effectively setting up the other bidders for a measure of failure because none of them will be able to do the level of bundling that Axon can. Honestly, I don't feel guilty about that because that's just a market thing. That's a market reality that Axon is in a place to offer more services than any other individual competitor is, if that is in fact the case. The reason I think it's worth having that in our head or in our back pocket, wherever we want to say we're keeping it. The reason I think it's worthwhile for us to have that on our radar screen is because who knows what the market will be 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 18 months from now, 72 months from now, because we got this contract that's going to take us 120 months. So there's plenty of time to check back and see what new competitor has come along that is now able to put up a good fight. So I say that because I don't want to run this too far into the ground. I think we all know where we are on this. So I mean, I thank you guys for doing the work that you've done. Like, I don't want to imply somehow that you guys are somehow lazy or shiftless because you didn't go back to the market. I understand you're still doing research, but when you're thinking about all of the awfulness, like how much time and frustration it would be to go through what seems like, from a practical perspective, a pointless exercise of going to the market, just remember that in the same sort of way that you got to come here and go through this to get this passed, it's just a thing that you should do. Like, it's just part of the way we do business, and the way we're supposed to be doing business is going to the market and checking.
Yeah, and I'll just note before there's one person of opposition, I think to the gestalt of what the comptroller is saying, I think there can be benefits even if we end up with the same exact company of going to the market, because it forces that company, whether it's, you mentioned that the body cam space is very competitive right now, right? There's a million different companies that want to offer us cameras. The very fact of going to the market, I think can incent the company that we end up going with, whoever it may be, to lower their price because they know we are looking in multiple places. I think that is generally how this thing works. That said, my office received a request to oppose this item late yesterday, and I'm going to oblige that request at that time. Is Mitch Novak from Motorola in the House? Please come on up. And Mr. Novak, if you could keep your comments to 2 minutes or less, this board would appreciate it.
I will do my best. I appreciate it. Mitch Novak, Motorola Solutions. Thanks for having us, and congratulations on the reduction in violent crime. On behalf of Motorola Solutions and the local businesses in Maryland, we'd like to express our gratitude for being a trusted partner for decades with the city. I personally, myself, have fielded calls and resolutions at critical moments with the city. Our team's dedication and partnerships are not words, but they are actions with proven results that deliver to your first responders and your residents. Today, we and our local business partner do have a profound concern regarding this 10-year proposal. It's valued at over $153 million as a sole source. We strongly urge a pause and for a formal procurement process to come about. The city's current path represents a significant failure to conduct essential due diligence for taxpayer expenditure of this magnitude. By bypassing a formal bid process, the city is overlooking a proven opportunity to achieve a minimum of 50% in savings, amounting to over $50 million. These substantial funds could strategically be reinvested in many needs services, such as police staffing, infrastructure, or taxpayer relief. Motorola Solutions and our local collaborators possess the established technical capabilities necessary to deliver these essential solutions. TASER systems and specialized AI training modules may be decoupled from the technology primary suite. Those are the two things we can't touch. TASERs is a one-of-a-kind solution. We also don't believe, or we're uncertain if there's any MWBE partners that have been offered the opportunity to discuss, including ourselves, discuss what we can do, demonstrate what we can do, and show you the pricing for our solutions. We will meet and exceed the city's requirements. Furthermore, we believe the sole source arrangement effectively excludes MWBEs, contracting both the primary goals of the city and the state. Let's see here. A few additional items. We highlight the final fiscal risk of proceeding without a transparent line item contract pricing. Axon's strategy of bundling solution offers obscure true costs, a practice currently under investigation by other major agencies, including St. Louis Police Department and San Francisco Police Department. A key citation in a recent article, a key reason why Axon was chosen to continue as BPD's chief technology supplier for the next 10 years is that changing vendors would require a complete hardware overhaul, resulting in significant transition costs to the city. This statement is inaccurate. Agencies at city, county, and state levels are increasingly transitioning away from Axon to adopt Motorola's hardware, software with data migration services. These migrations are often driven by Axon's excessive renewal pricing. In fact, several agencies have reported that once Axon becomes aware of Motorola's involvement in demonstrations and trials, they have slashed their initial quotes by more than 65%. There are many RFPs that have gone to the street where Motorola's pricing, or Axon's pricing, is 50% to 100% more expensive than when Motorola comes in.
Mr. Novak, I'm going to need you to start wrapping up.
All right. If you look at the initial contract, you're looking at $11.6 million in 2016. That's a 1,200% increase of what is being offered today. There may be some additional services. The $35 million to the $45 million of the current cost, that's 232% increase of what is often offered now. Some of those costs talk about data migration or data storage issues. There was a lawsuit in regards to that, and I'm wondering if that was because the offering was outside of CJIS compliance, storing mandated data in the United States, and that additional cost had to be taken care of to fix that. In closing, I appreciate your time and the opportunity to speak today. We believe the city leadership is dedicated to a transparent procurement process that prioritizes the best interests in the city. Therefore, we strongly recommend that the city delay this approval, conduct a comprehensive evaluation of all available options. This pause will ensure that every benefit is considered and that detailed contract price lists are established to guarantee fair and competitive pricing. It will allow MWBE partners the opportunity to compete directly. If the city still chooses Axon, I guarantee you will save money.
Thank you, Mr. Novak. Any closing comments before we take a vote? Look, I will just share, I think, to Stephen Salzberg's previous point, safety is the most critical issue in all of this. Safety for the women and men of the department, for the well-being of the residents that we serve, the historic public safety gains that we are making as a city, and grateful to BPD's leadership in helping us get there. Also want to appreciate that I think Axon has operated in good faith. I know has engaged the comptroller, myself, the administration. No hard feelings in their way. That said, though, I do think it is extremely important for us as a city to go to market on any product. I think a long-term sole source contract has the challenge of it may well be the best deal we could have gotten, but it may not. And so for those reasons, I am going to vote no, but appreciate all the participation of all parties here today. Mr. Comptroller?
I just want to make sure we have to change the opening statement because we have you listed as abstaining on this item. So we're going to have to make sure we go back and change the opening statement. But I also want to say that similarly, and I kind of laid all this out, so I don't know that I need to repeat all this. I don't know that Axon is not the best solution. And I don't know for certain that somebody else would be better. So I don't feel the same level of drive to vote against the contract, but I am very uncomfortable with the fact that we're not going back to market to check formally, and given, and I know the city administrator will appreciate this, given how much grief I give other agencies around the issue of sole source and about the importance of, I know you like working with these people, but we still need to go back to the market and make sure that this is the best thing. I think the better thing for me to do is I'm just going to abstain on this contract, and I hope that we will find a I hope we will find our way towards doing that reasonable check-in with the market at some point before the conclusion of the existing 10 years of current commitment that is going to be made today.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Hearing nothing else, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Nay. Madam Clerk, please note abstains.
Abstain.
Comptroller Henry abstains. Please note 3 in the affirmative, 1 no from the Council President, and 1 abstain from the Comptroller. This item is approved. As there is no more business before the board, we will now adjourn this meeting. The next meeting of the Board of Estimates will be on Wednesday, May 20th, 2026 at 9 a.m. I thank everyone for participating and tuning in.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Estimates bid opening for May 6, 2026. Apologies, we're getting a slightly late start because this morning's Board of Estimates didn't recess until after noon. So apologies for the late start today. We have one addenda to share this afternoon, and that is for the Bureau of Procurement, RFQ 000789. This item was for Network Access Control Solutions, and this was a Part A, meaning that we would be opening the technical qualifications only, but this item has been delayed from opening today, pardon me, until opening now on May 20th, 2026. We have 5 bids that we are opening today, and up first for Public Works, we have SC949RR. This is for Stony Run Wastewater Pumping Station upgrades and Brooklyn Wastewater Pumping Station Vacuum Priming Systems modifications.
Okay, good afternoon. We have received 3 bids. Sorry, let me make sure this picks up my voice. 3 bids. The first is from the Whiting Turner Contracting Company Incorporated. I have an original and a duplicate.
Thank you.
And
Surely this requires a bond, yes?
yes. Let's see. Okay, and
I have one on page 43 in the copy.
43. Okay, I have a signed bond on page 43. Make a note of that for next one to read. And the dollar total bid amount can be found on page 8. And it is $20,274,000.00.
What page did you find that on?
Page 8.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that number was 20,274,000.
That's correct.
That bidder was the Whiting Turner Company for $20,274,000.00.
Just give me a minute. I don't know if this is part of the previous bid. there it is. Okay, the next bid we received is from WM Slosher Company Incorporated. I have an original. I have 2 original bids.
Okay.
Give you the second copy.
Do you see a total?
I see it,
I'm looking at page 8 in this second one, and there's no total.
I see a total on page 8. I do not.
Confirming
oh.
my eyes. Blank.
Okay, yeah, confirmed. I'm looking for, do you have the, I'll read the total and then we can look for the bond.
Okay.
The total bid amount is $14,633,000.00.
Okay, that number was 14,633,000.00.
Correct.
Okay, and do you see a bond?
I have a bond. Sorry, page 42 was behind page 49. Which is
Yeah,
which is a
some of
different
these
learning of the numbers than I have.
Yeah. This one is not in the same sequence.
Okay.
And it is irregular in that it does not have the totals in this second version. So
Okay.
we're going to refer this
To the agency.
to the agency, right? Hold on, I'm just looking to see if I have a copy of that. I don't think I do. I mean, I don't need to have a copy of the bond as long as there's an original.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. And the final bid received.
Hold on just one second. I
Okay.
want to make a note.
Okay. And the final bid received is from Northeast Remsco Construction, sorry. And I have an original and I have a duplicate. Okay, not this last. Thank you. And
I have 2? Or is this?
that's just part of it. That's the addenda. And then and I have a payment and performance bond. On page 54, so these have been different pages each time. Page 54, payment and performance bond. And the total bid amount is $14,093,800.00.
Okay, that number was 14,093,800.
Correct.
Okay, that bidder was North, I'm gonna fix this typo, Northeast Remsco Construction for $14,093,800.00. Did I read Schlosser's?
Yep, that was the
number?
second one.
Did I read it back? Okay. I'll run through them one more time because I realize we're a little more stilted today because we didn't get a chance to open everything in advance. So we had the following bidders: the Whiting Turner Contracting Company for $20,274,000, W.M. Schlosser for $14,633,000, and Northeast Remsco Construction for $14,093,800. And that was our final of 3 bidders for SC 949RR, Stony Run Wastewater Pumping Station Upgrades, and Brooklyn Wastewater Pumping Station Vacuum Priming System Modifications. Up next for Public Works, we have Up next, we have WC 1454. This is for urgent need water infrastructure rehabilitation and improvements, Phase 1, fiscal 27.
Okay, we have 5 bidders. The first bid received is from Commercial Utilities. And I have 2 originals. You. Amazing. I have a signed bid bond. It should be page 2. A copy of it should be in 208.
Is this a good time for me to remind everyone that if you don't mark your bid duplicate, we
Yes.
have to call them all originals, and we send them to the agency, and they will not be sitting here for anyone to review?
Great. And the total.
I had that on 175.
Sorry, you're stapled together and throwing me off. The total bid, $17,731,329.50.
That number was 17,731,329.50.
Correct.
Okay, that bidder was Commercial Utilities for $17,731,329.50.
Okay, the next bid is from Civil Construction LLC. I have 2 originals. Okay, and I have a signed bid bond. And the total bid amount, $18,243,600.00.
That number was 18,243,600. And that bidder was Civil Construction LLC for $18,243,600.00.
Okay, the next bid is from Anchor Construction Corporation. I have so much paperwork. I have 2 originals. Okay. Could you give that to Celeste? Thank you. I have the signed bid bond. And this is supposed to be in here. And the total bid amount is, on page 175, $192,670. 0 cents.
That number was 19,192,670. Okay, and that was Anchor Construction Corporation for $19,192,670.00.
Okay, next bid is from Robert E. Harrington for it's from R.E. Harrington, Plumbing and Heating. I have an original and a duplicate.
Yay. Okay.
I have a signed bid bond. And the total bid amount is $13,497,250. Stopped.
That number was 13,497,250.00.
That is correct.
That bidder was R.E. Harrington Plumbing and Heating Company for $13,497,250.00.
Okay, and the last bidder for WC 1454 is Monumental Paving and Excavating Incorporated. I have an original and a duplicate.
Thank you.
We have received a signed bid bond. And the total bid amount is $14,150,000.00.
That number was 14,150,000.00.
Correct.
Okay, that bidder was Monumental Paving and Excavating for $14,150,000.00. And that was our final of 5 bidders for WC 1454, Urgent Need Water Infrastructure Rehabilitation and Improvements, Phase 1, fiscal year '27. Thanks, Shay. Up next for procurement, we have RFQ 000791. This is for court reporting services.
All right, we've received 2 bids.
Is this a total or an itemized kind of thing? Or a time kind of thing?
I will let you know.
Okay. It'll be a surprise.
Okay. The first bid is from Free State Reporting Incorporated. I have a flash drive.
Got it.
Although it's in the shape of a floppy disk, but I'm gonna say flash drive. I have 1, 2, I have 2 originals and 2 duplicates.
2 originals and 2 duplicates. Okay.
And did they mark off if it was going to be itemized or total?
I see a total value.
Okay, I see a total value.
Bid blank on
Okay.
13-18.
Got
Do you
it.
see that?
Okay, on B8. Okay, the total is $415,000.
415.
415,000.
That doesn't.
Dot 00.
Hold on. Let me. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong page.
On bid price sheet B8.
8. I was looking at the wrong page. That number was $415,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Total of items. Okay. So that bidder was Free State Reporting, Inc. for $415,000.
All right, our next bid is from Solomon.
Is that a floppy disk?
No, it
It's
is
a
a
CD.
CD-ROM.
Wow. Okay.
Do not know if any city employees have access to put
don't
this,
believe we do.
a CD-ROM inside their computer. But I'm sure the Bureau of Procurement will figure it out. So we have one original and 3 duplicates.
3 duplicates. No flash drive,
Nope. But a bonus CD-ROM,
but the bonus CD-ROM.
just like AOL.com used to come in. Nothing we say is binding in these openings.
We're revealing which of us remembers AOL and which of us doesn't. I used to get mail.
Okay, we
I'm
have
looking at B8 again.
B8, and the total is $225,000.
That's 225,000.
That's correct.
And that bidder was CRC Solomon for $225,000. Okay, and that was our final of 2 bidders for RFQ 000791, Court Reporting Services. Oh, my.
Yeah, I think it might be
Okay, up next for procurement, we have a big old
you.
pile. RFQ 000781, small meter replacement for water meters. And it looks like we have 7 bidders.
For small meters, we have a big
A
amount
lot
of
of
paper.
bidders.
Okay, I'm gonna go slowly. The first bid is from Envo Core.
I don't see that. Oh, they're a subsidiary.
Oh,
Okay, I have RTS Water Solutions.
RTS Water Solutions, apologies.
Subsidiary of Envocor.
That is,
Okay,
yeah,
just making sure we're,
thank you for clarifying. I have one flash drive.
a flash drive, okay. Oh, right, because this is for procurement. Technically, it's through procurement.
I have an original and I have 2 duplicate copies.
Okay, thank you. Did you find, oh, wait, till you tell
Okay.
me where the total is.
I have located the total. It's on B13. All
Okay,
right, the
hold on,
total
hold on,
price,
hold on. Hold, please. Why don't I have a B13?
it is after the last tab in the
Last,
binder.
oh, I didn't think. And I have appendix. Okay. I'm not going to question. B9, wait, what page did you say?
B13.
B13. I'm gonna find it.
For the education of the crowd and those watching, all bids are due, as you know, by 11 o'clock on BOE Day. And between 11 and 12, typically, our staff use this room to open and mark every page that we need to read out loud. Because the BOE meeting went longer, we're doing this as a little bit of an improv show today, so we appreciate your patience as we review these documents.
Thank you for that public service announcement, and I have located something that says total price.
Great. All right, the total price is $4,746,036.66.
Okay. That number was 4,746,036.60.
No, 0.66.
66. And that's what it says in my, that's what it says in the book, too. I just couldn't read it properly. And I'm going to repeat that one more time for folks. It's RTS Water Solutions, and their bid amount, they are a subsidiary of Envocor, and their bid amount was $4,746,036.66. Thanks.
Okay, next up is from Vanguard Utility Service Incorporated. I have an original, a flash drive, and 2 duplicates.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and from B13.
Okay.
The total price is $1,882,181.86.
That number was 1,882,181.86.
That's correct.
And that bidder was Vanguard Utility Service for $1,882,181.86.
Okay.
I have a question for you before we continue.
Okay.
Do you have a page? Oh, this is because it's this.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just in the front, so it like threw me off. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, the next bid is from Beneficial Growth Holdings, LLC.
Okay.
I have a flash drive and yeah, I have 2 originals.
2 originals.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, it looks like they submitted their own price sheet, so we're not going to read off of what we usually read off of.
Yeah, I see a page that says total project value. I don't know if that's
In this case,
right.
I like to refer to the agency for review.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Are you seeing these pages?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should refer this one. This has multiple pages, multiple totals, but they're not in the form. So we're going to let the agency take a look at this one.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have a submission from Meter Tech. I have a flash drive, I have an original, and I have 2 duplicates. These are new, these are newfangled photos.
Fancy envelope.
Okay.
And the total's right on the front. But I'm gonna go look at the form.
Okay. All right, the total price I'm going to read from B13
Yes.
is $2,729,446.00.
Okay, that number was 2,729,446.00.
That's correct.
Okay, that bidder was Meter Tech for $2,729,446.00.
Madam Clerk, I'm going to note that this is a different pricing total than what's on the front page. I'm concerned we're reading the wrong area. Procurement?
You know, that's what's throwing me off.
That's the, so on
The 1 year
B13, that's
term.
what you wanted to-
Okay, that's the
Okay,
number
good.
we've,
Thank God.
that's the
Okay.
number we've been reading, except for the one bid where it wasn't clear, so we'll let
Okay.
you. Okay, good.
Thank
Just-
you.
Just checking ourselves. Thank you, procurement and the audience.
Our live
for
studio
being here for
audience.
us. Here's that super nice folder.
Okay. Our next bid is from, give me your name, identify yourself. Seed Mock Water Construction LLC.
Okay.
I have two originals and a flash drive.
Okay.
And the total on B13. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm getting close. B13, the 1 year term, total is
$9,218,272.00.
Okay, that number was 9,218,272.00.
Correct.
That bidder was Seed Mock Water Construction LLC for $9,218,272.00.
All right. This is, we have two remaining bidders. The next bid is from R.E. Harrington Plumbing and Heating Co. Incorporated. I have a USB, one original, and two duplicates.
Okay.
There's one extra sheet on the bottom. Okay, and the total price on page B13 is $5,623,000.
Okay, that number was 5,623,000.00.
Correct.
That bidder was R.E. Harrington Plumbing and Heating Company for $5,623,000.
Cool. Great. And the next bid, the last bid received for RFQ 000781 small meter replacement for water meters is from Monumental Paving and Excavating Incorporated. I have received one original and 2 duplicates, no flash drive.
No flash drive.
Okay, and the total price, total bid award is $7,057,550.00.
Sorry, I was typing in the wrong column. Sorry. Let me try that again. Okay.
$7,057,550.00.
Okay, that number was 7,057,550.00.
Correct.
And that bidder was Monumental Paving and Excavating for $7,057,550.00. And that was our final of 7 bidders for RFQ 781 small meter replacements for water meters. And last but not least, for the Department of Transportation, we have TR 26010, ADA Curb Ramp Construction East, urgent need.
Cool. All right, the first bid is from Santos Construction Incorporated. Okay, cool. I have 2 originals.
Okay. I see a bond. Do you
What page do you
also?
see the bond on?
173.
Okay. Okay, I see the bond is, we have a bid bond. And the total bid amount can be page on 129, yeah. $2,017,700.00.
That number was 2,017,700.00.
Correct.
That was Santos Construction for $2,017,700.00.
The next bid we have is from Priority Construction Corporation, and we have 1 original and 1 duplicate.
I see a signed bid bond in this copy.
All right, yep, I have a signed bid bond. And the total bid amount is $1,818,566.73.
That number was 1,818,566.73.
Correct.
Okay, that bidder was Priority Construction Corporation for $1,818,566.73.
Okay. And the last bidder is J Villa Construction Incorporated. And we have 2 originals.
Okay.
There you go. We have a signed bid bond. Okay. And the total bid amount is $1,799,997.90.
That was 1,799,997.90.
That's correct.
Okay, that bidder was J Villa Construction for $1,799,997.90. And that was our final of 3 bidders for TR 26010, ADA curb ramp construction urgent need, east urgent need. And that was our final bid opening for today. The results from today's bid will appear on the comptroller's web pages by close of business today, if not sooner. Shalond usually has them done much sooner, and I'm always the delay in signing them. And our next bid opening is scheduled for May 20th, 2026 at 12 noon. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today, and we will see you then. Thanks, TV 25.